Shout it out, everybody. What's going on, man? I'm your host, Moshe Canty. I tuned in to We Locked In. What's the deal, man? What's going on, man? B-Lo, shout it out. Word 183rd. I see y'all in the building. Tonight, we got some serious content we're going to talk about tonight, y'all. This right here is a banger. I hope that, individuals can pull up, man, because we got a lot that we need to discuss. We're supposed to have some guests pull up as well. I don't know, because the individuals who were supposed to come on, they also have certain obligations that they need to attend to. So I'm not going to hold it to them. I understand the work that they're doing is significant, and I don't want to invalidate that. But if they're not able to come, then we'll just pick up right where we need to pick up at. Chill Will, shout it out to you, my brother. What's going on? Listen, man, hit that like button on y'all way in. We about to really, really, man, delve into some very serious issues, man. As it pertains to one of the elders, man, our esteemed elder, and we wanna give accurate information. We want to pay homage. Salute to you too, Miss Sunshine. Shout it out. Everybody that's tuned in, Cam Stone, I see you, my brother. It's always a pleasure, man. Everybody that's tuned in to We Locked In. I want us to really, really, really tap in tonight, because this is a very important topic. It should not be something that goes over our heads so easily, but something that we take to heart. I'm gonna let people start pulling up before we really, really delve into the topic at hand. I had some other issues that I wanted to address in terms of like current event matters. I think those are equally significant. But as opposed to starting those off beforehand, I'm going to probably touch on those a little bit afterwards. And the reason why is because I don't think nothing should precede the significance or the importance of this particular moment right here. Sometimes you just have to put things into their proper perspective. And these are just one of those instances in which, you want to put things into its proper perspective, right? Darryl Carl, Troy Palmer, I see y'all. Thank y'all for y'all support. All right, so without further ado, we're gonna get right to it. I had to yesterday. I made it my business to put up the post that we will be going live today at 8:00. Today is Sunday evening, so I know people have things that they might be trying to do before Monday gets here. It's nice outside. It's not like it's freezing cold, so I know everybody's priorities are a little bit different than others. But I wanted individuals to have time to kind of take care of what they needed to take care, so we can kind of get focused on this. But if individuals choose to pull up, then it's all good. But so this is the deal, right? So I don't know if many of you out there have been aware of the recent events taking place with the late Tupac Shakur's I don't like to use the word stepfather. So for the sake of this discussion, I'm gonna use the word father, because he was Tupac's father. So I wanna speak about that issue. And I don't know how many of you guys are aware of it though. With respects to what has recently taken place with him. All right. I'm gonna give you a quick backdrop. I'm gonna give you a bio of who Mutulu Shakur is, because a lot of times we think we might have a little bit of information, and that information might not necessarily be accurate. So I'm gonna do my best to try to give a detailed and an accurate description of who he is, where he's from, what his politics were, where he is currently, and what his predicament is. But this is somebody who, I might add, is not just your typical individual who we come on here and we speak about, but this is somebody who we should be talking more about. I know that there's a lot of information out there in the airwaves, and no disrespect to what people are talking about, but a lot of times individuals, they will not discuss these type of matters because either they're not knowledgeable about them, or these are just one of those instances you try to stay away from because individuals don't want to touch these type of topics. But for lack of a better term, I think it's very important that we touch these topics right here. It should be no reason why we're allowing our elders to just pass us right on by, and we're not addressing who they were and the significance of the contributions that they made on behalf of not only our community but the world in general. And Mutulu Shakur is no different. I'm gonna get right to it. Just give me 1 second. You guys already see that I have his bio already pulled up on the screen. That was intentional on my behalf. I wanted to highlight this fact because I realized that, a lot of times people don't even know how this brother look. Who's Tupac's father, right? Now, this is not his biological father, but this is the man that was married to his mother, the late Afeni Shakur, and who is his younger sister's father. So that's his father. I mean, he raised him. This is the household that he was raised in. He was raised around these type of elders, these individuals who sacrificed their lives so that we as a people could enjoy the amenities and truly taste freedom, not the so-called freedom that we've been tasting under the grip of the system, but so that we can define who we are and we can truly enjoy the benefits and the amenities of what freedom is about. So in this case, Mutulu Shakur is what they will refer as, what we will all refer to as, a political prisoner. But how did he get to that point? What does that actually mean, that he's a political prisoner? Well, he's not necessarily home yet at John Shab 139. He's not home yet. But he is slated to come home. His release date is December 6th. He was recently granted parole. Now, originally he was sentenced to 60 years in prison, but he was recently granted parole. But the circumstances surrounding why he was granted parole are like really, really like suspect. The judge who granted him early release is only granting him release because he has a terminal illness. Mutulu, unfortunately, he has bone marrow cancer, and the doctor stated that he only has literally like 6 months to live. Whether or not, if that's true, Allah knows best. I don't think doctors can tell you with any degree of certainty whether or not you'll be here 6 months from now. Sometimes they like to use their estimations to predict that, but for the most part, that's what they basically stated. He's going to be in California when he's released, and he has to remain like confined to his bed. Not so much laying in bed all day, but his circumstances are that he's going to be like home confined in that regard, because he's really for all intents and purposes, in a real bad state. So the judge in this case, this is the only reason why the judge released him. I'm going to share with you guys some information regarding what the judge stated himself, and what led up to him being released. All right. So before we get to it, just give me 1 second, you guys. All right, so I put up on the screen this photo and this contact information of the elder Mutulu Shakur, so I can just provide some backdrop. Now, this is like a bio that was put together by the National Jericho Movement. The National Jericho Movement is a movement founded by the late Safia Bukhari, along with individuals like Jalil Muntakim. A couple of months ago, we actually had veteran Black Panther and veteran Black Liberation Army soldier Jalil Muntakim. He spent a total of 49 years in prison. We called him on our show, and we actually interviewed him. He's somebody who we, myself, Mikey, and KK, we know very well. We were all with him during our times of being incarcerated, and when we got, by the time we got there, he had already had so much time, and he was like, an elder, with a respected name and things of that nature. But we called him on a couple of months ago to speak about him being recently released, and still some of the things that's going on in terms of the comparisons between the past and the future and things like that. But for the most part, these elders are significant in that regard. And this is why I think it's always important that we speak about them, because they've done so much for us. I mean, and I know a lot of times we hear so much information over the airways, but we're not really hearing information that's beneficial for us. What can we benefit? Why is it important that we know about Mutulu Shakur, versus knowing more about somebody else who has never done anything for us, and somebody who is not doing anything for us as well? So I just kind of want to put it into perspective. So what you guys see here is just a breakdown of this bio. So I'm going to read this, and as I kind of go over the bio, I'm gonna be stopping at certain points to kind of give clarity regarding who he is and things of that nature. Um, his affiliation is the Republic of New Africa. And for individuals who don't know what the Republic of New Africa is, the Republic of New Africa is the provisional government for the Republic of New Africa, which is known as the PGRNA, was a land in America below the Mason-Dixon line. States like South Carolina, Georgia, Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi. These 5 particular states were individuals of the Black Liberation Movement back in the 60s and 70s. They were fighting for the independence of this particular land. Mutulu Shakur just was one of them. All right, him along with other individuals, Jalil Mutakim, Herman Bell, Sheikh Noor, among others, and countless others. Their argument was that because our ancestors were brought over here illegitimately as slaves, that they were going to continue to fight for their freedom. Individuals like Nat Turner, Denmark Vesey, Gabriel Prosser, Harriet Tubman, and countless others who were fighting for their freedom so that we can be free as a people. Their thing was that, listen, the laws in this land were never really for us as a people. They were established illegitimately, unjustifiably, without our people having any hand in that process. They brought us over, our ancestors over here illegally. They plundered, they raped, they killed, and things like that. So what these individuals were saying that they had a right to fight back against the system that sought to enslave them, that they didn't have a right to hold them. So this is why they claim, and their claim is legitimate, that they are political prisoners, that they are prisoners of war, that their fight is similar to what other individuals and countries are fighting on behalf of their freedom for their people. All right. So a lot of times what happens is that the American system itself does not like to look at, they do not reckon, the American system, the American government itself does not recognize political prisoners. They do not recognize prisoners of war. So instead of acknowledging that these individuals were prolonging a fight from their ancestors and saying that the system itself could not hold them captive any longer, or that they had a right to rule over them, they criminalized them. So anything that they did, instead of considering these individuals to be political prisoners, they considered them to be common criminals who violated the laws of the land. So this is why a lot of times you see that Mutulu Shakur, Assata Shakur, Fini Shakur, and all of them, they always, when they stood in front of the courtrooms, they always defended themselves so adamantly. And they was basically saying, listen, your laws are unjust. The way you established your rule of law came about based on the plunder, rape, extortion, kidnapping, etc., of our people. So this should be, so we're not even going to respect that and acknowledge that. So going back to Mutulu Shakur's, his affiliation with the Republic of New Africa, he, along with other individuals in the Black movement, were fighting for free land in this land here. They were not trying to go back to Africa. They were not trying to repatriate like others did when they repatriated back to Liberia back in the 19th century. But they wanted to stay in the land of America. They felt like they helped contribute to its construction, its upliftment, and being that a significant percentage of the slaves who were brought from the transatlantic slave trade was sent to the South, they were claiming that many of our descendants, since they started there in many regards, then they wanted to basically fight for that land since they did so much to kind of build it up. All right. So again, going back to what the Republic of New Africa is, a Republic of New Africa is actually a government which is ruled by blacks by blacks. And so Dr. Mutulu Shakur just happens to be affiliated with that, right? At the time of this bio, he was locked up for 33 years. That was 2 years ago. He's been locked up right now for a total of 35 years. Really like 85, 86, so going on 36 years. He was captured in 1986. And I use that word intentionally when I say captured, because again, he's a prisoner of war. He's not your common criminal. He did not steal some money. He's not selling no drugs in the corner. He was not flipping bricks. He was not, doing the shenanigans. He was fighting for the freedom and liberation of his people. He wanted his people to be free. All right. And we need to really, really understand that when we read our history books, we need to put that in its proper perspective, that this man wanted to be free. He did not just want to be free. He wanted you to be free as well. All right. So when we wake up and we take for granted the freedoms that we do have, this individual and his comrades, they did everything in their power to fight so that we will be free. All right. And I'm not talking about the freedom that we think we have today, because we think we're free. Many of us think that we're free, but in reality, we're not. All right. Because we just can't do whatever it is that we want to do. All right. When we do things, we're doing things in furtherance of the system that continues to oppress us and repress us. But these individuals wanted to establish laws that were that were for us as a people. So let me just continue to read. I'm going to read from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission in the United States, from the Geneva Convention. It says, there is a need for a Truth and Reconciliation Commission in the U.S. to resolve the history of slavery, oppression, racism, segregation, lynching, and the issue of political prisoners of the civil rights Black liberation struggle who fought against these gross human rights abuses. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission was also a process set up in South Africa to redress the gross violations of human rights by the apartheid regime. It was a tool to assist a peaceful transition to a democratic society, but public acknowledgement of the gross human rights abuses by the government and its agent. The idea of crimes against humanity comes under the international law in the Geneva Convention adopted by the world at the United Nations. The liability of such violators lies on nations as well as individuals who fight against the violators of human rights. Now, if you guys recall, there was a time when Malcolm X, who many of these individuals today were influenced by, right? Malcolm X, instead of him wanting to claim that our fight as a people was on a civil rights level, he went to the United Nations to say we needed to basically be recognized on a human rights level. And by doing so, it would then expand our fight globally so that it wouldn't just be a national issue. Because if you look at it just like that we're fighting for the civil rights of our peoples, then the people who are governing us will be responsible for dealing with their internal issues. But when you bring it to the United Nations and say that there are gross violations that are taking place based on the history or the pattern of abuses that this system has against our people, then they would then hold them to account and say, hey, listen, you guys are violating the rights of your own people. And then now pressure will be put on them, ideally, right? So what the Truth and Reconciliation Commission is something that was established in South Africa in the aftermath of the apartheid system. And what it was established, what was it? It was built upon the former apartheid system being able to acknowledge its wrongs and the abuses that it inflicted upon the indigenous people of that land. We all know what the apartheid is and things of that nature. So similarly, in America, individuals from the Republic of New Africa, they basically argued their case. And Jalil Muttaqin was one of these individuals as well, who argued that we should to establish first in America a Truth and Reconciliation Commission so that the American government will accept responsibility for the wrongs that they've inflicted upon our peoples. But not only that, not only hold themselves to account, but compensate us monetarily for in the forms of reparations for all of the abuses that they inflicted upon us, because they never repaired the harm that they've done. All right. So they just basically just brushed it up under the rug and gave the impression that we'll be all right within the system. After the Civil War, they kind of just let us fend for ourselves. Yeah, there were minor things that was done during the Reconstruction period, but for the most part, that was followed up by Jim Crow and segregation. But we never really had an opportunity to kind of fight on an equal playing field. Now, this is not an excuse to simply say that, okay, because we have knowledge of what took place 100 years ago, that this allows us to kind of lean on our predecessors and not take advantage of what we have today. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying if you have the opportunity to kind of act now, then you should be acting now. You should be building upon all of the amenities or all of the freedoms that we do have. We should be utilizing to our advantage versus to our detriment. But I'm going to continue to read. So Dr. Mutulu Shakur is a new African Black man whose primary work has been in the area of health. I don't know if a lot of people are aware of this. That's right, John Schaff. I see that you put this 139 that he was a doctor of acupuncture. All right. I don't know if individuals know what an acupuncturist is, but an acupuncturist is somebody who, this is a form of treatment that seeks to address many of the ailments that our people as a community are suffering from, not in your traditional westernized kind of way. It's more of an easternized way. It's more holistic. It's something that is more cultural, something that we've been doing for thousands of years, right? And I'm saying I'm speaking about Black and brown bodies. This is a part of our culture. So if you ever noticed, you've seen people sticking like when you might go to go get therapy. Some spas have this, right? You might see them going to get therapy, and they're like in a hot room and stuff like that, and somebody's like poking them, sticking needles in different parts of their bodies and stuff like that. And what that's doing is that's helping to like kill off certain bad nerves and certain poisonous and toxin. It's killing off bad energy within your system and stuff like that. So it's helping to release all of the like negative toxins that are being released in your body regularly. So Mutulu Shakur is actually an expert in this field. So this is something that he realized needed to be a part of our community as a people, not only helping to address other issues, but he felt like this was something that we needed to really address. So I'm going to get into that because this is very important about how important of a role he played in our community, right? He is a doctor of acupuncture and was a co-founder and director of 2 institutions devoted to improving healthcare in the Black community. Now think about that. This is an individual who was devoted to improving healthcare in the Black community. This is a Black man, you guys. This is somebody not no shenanigans. This is a real doctor who was trying to improve the healthcare of our people, who traditionally in America, there's always been disparities as it pertains to the healthcare of our people. There's always been inequities within the system. We've always had to struggle to get the best type of healthcare within the system. So acknowledging that, he empowered himself with the information that he could then utilize to help us as a people within the community. So he didn't become a detriment to the community. He became an asset to the community. So a lot of times we see, or we're always speaking about the problems that are in our communities. Like, damn, this is going on, or they've been doing this to us, or whatever the case may be like that. But what we do is we just talk about the problems. The difference between this individual, in this case, Mutulu Shakur, was that he didn't just speak about the problems. He actually acted on it. You know what I'm saying? He went about changing the conditions of the community. And if it's anything that we learn from his example is that it's important that we act. If we see wrongs being propagated or perpetuated within our communities, get out of the habit of just talking about them. Get out of the habit of talking it on YouTube and so it can just look good for 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 views. Get out there in the community, man, and start making some changes, man. Get with people of like mind who you realize and you know can help change some conditions for the better. So let me continue to read, you guys. Mutulu Shakur was born on August 8th, 1950 in Baltimore, Maryland as Gerald Wayne Williams. At age 7, he moved to Queens, Jamaica, Queens, New York City with his mother and younger sister. Shakur's political and social consciousness began to develop early in his life. His mother suffered not only from being Black and female, but was also blind. These elements constituted Shakur's first confrontation with the state, while assisting his mother to negotiate through the maze that makes up the social service system. So here you have a Black woman who you guys know are automatically going to be faced with different forms of oppression, different forms of abuse, different forms of marginalization. Being that she's living in a patriarchal system that's ruled by white men, you can only imagine what she was experiencing in the 60s, in the 50s, and the 60s, right? A woman who couldn't see. So now here's a young man trying to help his mother navigate through the challenges of this disparate or inequitable health system, right? And imagine what he had to see in terms of how his mother was mistreated back in the days. So these are some of the seeds that was planted in his young mind, where he said that, you know, when I get older, I'm going to do my best. I'm going to empower myself so my mother, the other people's mothers don't have to suffer the way my mother suffered. All right. So, you know, that love right there has to come from a place that's it has to be in your heart. If it's not there, you're not going to be motivated by anything to do anything. So you can see automatically that he was a righteous warrior, fighting for the upliftment of his people because it was deeply rooted in his heart. All right. All right. Hold on, you guys. Give me 1 second. Let me get back to where I was at. Pardon me, you guys. All right. Through this experience, Shakur learned that the system did not operate in the interests of Black people, when that Black people must control the institutions that affect their lives. This is not a lie. This is not a lie right here. I mean, let's just be honest, right? Can we honestly say that from history, from our experiences. I mean, everybody that's tuned in, I don't know exactly how many individuals. I see it says 24, 25 individuals in the building. I'm not even sure how many people are listening right now. But let's just be honest. For those individuals who do know, can we honestly say that that we're getting adequate health care? That the system is equal as it pertains to how our people are being treated? Can we honestly say that? Are your children being treated the same way, let's say, for instance, Donald Trump's children are being treated? Or is he getting better treatment because he has the financial resources to be able to take care of his people? Let's just keep it 100. Are these systems already embedded? Do we have to depend on other people outside of our communities to help us with these institutions should already be a part of our communities themselves? Or are we relying upon other individuals to help take care of a basic need? So these are some of the things that we have to ask ourselves. We're always depending and relying upon other people to do for us. That's just the truth. You dig what I'm saying? But this is what a young Mutulu Shakur was seeing, and this is what he was like confronted with back in the 50s and 60s. So we're not talking about now where it's a different time period. We're talking about in a time period where it was still Jim Crow. He's from Baltimore, Maryland. So there was a lot of racism going on back then in Baltimore. All right. So just put that into perspective from a historical standpoint. All right. So it says, since the age of 16, Dr. Shakur has been a part of the new African independence movement. And this is for the youth out there, right? This is very, very important. A lot of times we think that because he's 72 years old right now and he has terminal cancer, that this individual wasn't young one time. You know, a lot of times we make the mistake, and this is for the young brothers and sisters, man. We make the mistakes of thinking that our elders wasn't young. At 16 years old, he was a part of the independence movement. Let me say that again. At 16 years old, he was a part of the independence movement. 16. Yeah, I'm sure he probably played basketball. I'm sure he probably played a little fun. He had little games he played with his friends in the community. I'm sure that he had a youth. I'm sure that, right? But at 16 years old, he was already thinking about freedom for his people. Some of us are 40, 50 years old, and we ain't even thinking on that level. He was 16 years old, willing to risk his life so that we can be free. So this is how you kind of conceptualize and put things into perspective. And like when we talk about Mutulu Shakur, this is like there's a lot that comes with that. So we need to really put this into perspective of where this is going. All right, why he became a threat. You know what I'm saying? Why he had to be destroyed. You know what I'm saying? Why the Shakur family. So it's a lot going on. We need to really, really put this into perspective. All right. As a part of this movement, Dr. Shakur has been a target of the illegal counterintelligence program carried out by the FBI, known as the counterintelligence program. So let's just keep it 100. Let's just keep it all the way 100. The counterintelligence program, which was the brainchild of J. Edgar Hoover and the FBI. Let's just be real. It was an illegal. This is not something that I'm saying, that Moshe is saying. It has already been agreed upon by the United States government itself. I'm not saying this. The United States government itself has already agreed that the counterintelligence program, which engaged in illegal activities, which were wiretapping, which was assassinations, which was false imprisonments, which was all type of illegal activities. Now, if you and I are engaged in any type of illegal activities, do you think you'll go to jail? I know that's true because I spent over 25 years in prison from doing illegal stuff. How many government officials who engaged in illegal activities against our people, which the government itself acknowledges were engaged in illegal activity, actually went to prison? Not one. But how many individuals like Dr. Mutulu Shakur and his comrades either are no longer in this country because they're still hiding because they can't come back home, like Asada, who's in Cuba right now, who's been there since the early 80s, right? And I can keep naming other individuals as well, or individuals who are still sitting incarcerated right now because they've been framed by the United States government as a result of illegal activity by the counterintelligence program. So that's something that we need to kind of put into perspective. All right, let me just keep going. This was a secret police strategy used in the U.S. starting in the 1960s to destroy and neutralize progressive and revolutionary organizations. It is believed that Dr. Shakur's resistance to this program led to his arrest and trial. During the late 60s, Dr. Shakur was also politically active and worked with the Revolutionary Action Movement, a Black nationalist group which struggled for Black self-determination and socialist change in America. He was also a member of the Provisional Government of the Republic of New Africa, which I just explained to you guys, which endorsed the founding of an independent New African Republic and the establishment of an independent Black state in the southern United States. Dr. Shakur also worked very closely with the Black Panther Party, supported by his brother, Lumumba Shakur Nzeid. Lumumba Shakur was an individual who was also a leader of the Black Panther Party of the New York chapter, who at some point was later, along with Afeni Shakur, Sekou Odinga, among Daruba Ben Wahad, among other individuals who were indicted and which they were part of the Panther 21 case. If I would advise anybody who's looking to kind of gain some more understanding of that history, to do their research on who and what the Panther 21 was. This is a trial where the Panthers were framed regarding their alleged plots to blow up department stores, police precincts, among other things, right? None of this was true. All of this was false. They ended up beating all these charges, but Afeni Shakur at the time, I don't know if you guys are aware of this. Some of you may be, some may be not, but it's always good for clarification purposes. She represented herself pro se, without the representation of counsel, and she was successful in beating the trial. All right, that's just putting things into perspective and letting you know how fiery of a sister that she was. Where she said, "I'm going to represent myself, right, and I'm going to defend myself because what I'm representing is the truth, right." So Lumumba Shakur and Zaid was the one who Zaid Malik Shakur was the brother who died on the turnpike with the sister. At the time when Assata Shakur got shot up and the comrade Sundiata Acoli at the same time. Them three were together when they were pulled over. And then the police started opening fire on Assata once he recognized her. He tried to kill her. They end up killing Zaid, and that's how the officer died and stuff like that. And that's a whole nother story. But anyway, that's a story that people would like you to believe that Assata was on that turnpike firing like she was some freaking Machine Gun Kelly type stuff. No, the reality was that they opened fire on. They tried to assassinate her, and the comrades did everything that they did to protect her. Recently, Sundiata Acoli was just released. So the brother spent. I think at the time that event took place in May of 1971. So he was incarcerated for like the last 51 years. Think about that. That Sundiata Acoli protecting Assata Shakur and Zaid at the time. He was incarcerated for 51 years. 51 years, all because they were standing up for the rights of Black people. All right. So let me just continue to read. In 1970, Dr. Shakur was employed by the Lincoln Detox community program as a political education instructor. So the Lincoln Detox was a detoxification center. Now, anybody knows that in the early 1970s, a part of the Central Intelligence Agency's plan was to place heroin and drugs and guns up in the community. Now, the guns came a lot later with the crack, with the gangs, the crack and everything like that, where they fostered that. But even before that, they were already putting drugs into the community like that. During this time also, you kind of see there was a twist from, you kind of saw there was a shift between the Black and the civil rights movement, Black power movement, where they started now showing movies where Blacks were exploiting themselves. This is why they call it the Black exploitation era in Hollywood. Shaft and the Mac and stuff like that. There were no movies that individuals was like standing up to be guardians of the Black community. Now you saw men, instead of them being respectable, reputable men, leaders of their community, now they sought to denigrate us and turn us into pimps and bunch of scumbags. That's what they wanted us to, the projection that they kind of put out there to the world. But the reality that was being faced with in our urban communities was that they were being overwhelmed with drugs, in this case, heroin. So the detoxification center in the Bronx at this time, the Lincoln Detox Center, was a place that he actually was employed at. And his role evolved to include counseling and treatment of withdrawal symptoms with acupuncture. So this goes back to what he was specialized in. He sought to use the art and the medicine of acupuncture to help individuals to wean them off the diet, because he realized that the methadone was another way to kind of like make our people chemically dependent. So he didn't want to keep putting more poison in our body. The poison was already there. The dependence on the heroin was already there. So once they got to these detox centers, putting them putting them on methadone was only way to kind of, because all methadone really does is it puts the heroin to sleep, but it has the potential to kind of like reawaken once you're in an environment where there's heroin at now. You know what I'm saying? So it doesn't really kind of deal with it. But the acupuncture sought to now release those toxins and kind of like help you kind of like rid yourself of those toxins forever, right? Ideally, right? So Dr. Shakur became certified and licensed to practice acupuncture in the state of California in 1976. Eventually, he became the program's assistant director and remained associated with the program until 1978. So now, this is this individual in this role doing all this for the community. I'm going to get back to this, though. From 1978 to 1982, Dr. Shakur was the co-founder and co-director of the Black Acupuncture Advisory Association of North America, which is known as BANA, and the Harlem Institute of Acupuncture, where at Lincoln, Dr. Shakur had managed a detox program recognized as the largest and most effective of its kind by the National Institute of Drug Abuse, right? National Acupuncture Research Society, and the World Academic Society of Acupuncture. At BANA, he continued his remarkable work and also treated thousands of poor and elderly patients who would otherwise have no access to treatment of this type. So think about our people who are being faced with all of the challenges of our beef with the system, of our challenges with the system, everything that we go through as a people in our community, the inequities, the abuses, and so on and so on and so forth. So here's a man amongst the people who was respected by the people. This is a man who the community loved. When he walked in the community, the people knew exactly who he was. He can go from one place of the community to the next, and everybody knew who he was. He was somebody who was there as an asset to the community. But the remarkable thing was that he wasn't. How did somebody that beneficial to the community become a threat to the establishment? Think about that. Why would that person become a threat to the establishment that they would want this individual to be locked up forever? You would think that this would be somebody they would align themselves with and say, hey, you know what? This guy is doing great work in the community. It wasn't like that. And it's never like that. So we'll never get applauded or appreciated for the successes and the sacrifices that we're continuing to do in the communities. This is why it's important that we develop and construct our own institutions, because if we don't have our institutions, we'll continue to rely upon institutions that can care less about us. You dig what I'm saying? All right, hold on. Let me keep reading. Many community leaders, political activists, lawyers, and doctors were served by BANA, and over 100 medical students were trained in the discipline of acupuncture. So not only from him came the issue of upliftment, but he then now taught over 100 students this skill set. He can then now train them so that they can be in the community themselves. Again, do you think that the system looked at these individuals as being helpful, or these individuals felt like, we got to get rid of them. Let's keep putting more stuff in that community, more poison in that community, and let's get rid of these individuals that's trying to fight back against all that. If that's not criminal, I don't know what is. But again, nobody's never held accountable for these atrocities. Shout it out. I see my sister Jay Renee in the building. Definitely gonna pull you up, sis. Definitely pulling you up on this. By the late 1970s, Dr. Shakur's work in acupuncture and drug detoxification was both nationally and internationally known, and he was invited to address members of the medical community around the world. So he wasn't just speaking in Brooklyn, wasn't just talking in Queens. He wasn't local. The brother wasn't local. The brother was doing that international thing. And he wasn't traveling to the places, just some of these, affluent places like France and Italy and Great Britain. Now, the brother was in the trenches, man. He was in the ghettos of the world, trying to figure out, like, how can he help save the people who, wherever he seeing black and brown bodies all over the world, we suffering the most. So this is where this individual, man, Mutulu Shakur, became even more of a threat to the establishment. All right. Dr. Shakur lectured on his work at many medical conferences and was invited to the People's Republic of China. In addition to his work for the Charles Cobb Commission for Racial Justice for the National Council of Churches, he developed their anti-drug program. Dr. Shakur has furthermore been a dedicated worker and champion in the struggle against political imprisonment and political convictions of Black activists in America. He was the founding member of the National Committee to Free Political Prisoners. He has been a leader in the struggle against the illegal U.S. and local American law enforcement programs designed to destroy the Black movement in America, and has worked to expose and to stop the secret American war against his Black colony. Through his political work, Dr. Shakur has been associated with the Committee to Defend Herman Ferguson, a Black activist and educator charged with conspiracy in the Ram conspiracy case of the 1960s. The National Task Force for COINTELPRO Litigation and Research, which researched and initiated suits against the FBI and American law enforcement agencies for criminal acts, spying, and counterinsurgency warfare tactics, and the National Conference of Black Lawyers. He has also endorsed support for the legal defense of political prisoners and prisoners of war, including Imari Obadeli, PhD, Reverend Ben Chavis, Geronimo Pratt, G. Jaga of the Black Panther Party, and the Sada Shakur and Sundiata Acoli of the Black Liberation Army. In March 1982, Dr. Shakur and 10 others were indicted by a federal grand jury under a set of U.S. conspiracy laws called RICO laws. These conspiracy laws were ostensibly developed to aid the government in its prosecution of organized crime figures. However, they have been used with varying degrees of success against revolutionary organizations. Now, remember a couple of days ago, you see how I spoke to you guys about how the counterintelligence program of the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and even to the early 80s, but it was probably destroyed by then, how it never really was fully destroyed, how it just kind of morphed into other things. So the same way it has changed over the course of time, what has also changed has been the street organizations or the political organizations of that time. So no longer are they more in tune politically. Now individuals is more focused on senselessness, right? But the systems itself that were created or that gained their notoriety off of the backs of our people, they continue to exist. So this is why you see gangs are being taken down in this community. And this is not to take anything away from some of the ignorance that some of these groups are engaging in, but the fact of the matter is that these Black and brown bodies are still kind of being taken off the communities, taken out the community no matter what. So this is just something to kind of like put into perspective. All right, let me keep going before I keep building. Hold on. It says Dr. Shakur was charged with conspiracy and participation in a clandestine paramilitary unit that carried out actual and attempted expropriations from several banks. Now, according to the U.S. American law, they would say that these are robberies taking place. The laws that they have on their books, they come from England, right? So you got to put it into perspective, right? These laws were put into place for a reason, right? When the government of America was not established, there was no laws here. There was just laws that were ruled by the natives of this land. They had their own laws, their own civilizations, their own governing rules and things like that. But when they were decimated, there had to be rule of law that came in. So they just brought their laws over here. So robbery and larceny and things of that nature, they have been defined from a Eurocentric perspective, right? So now here, these slaves, these descendants of slaves who are fighting for their freedom now, do not, because they did not respect, and I'm speaking about Mutulu and Asada and them, being that they did not respect the legitimacy of these laws, they did not consider their acts to be a violation of any law. They actually thought that they had a right to expropriate, meaning to take back much of the money that was not being given to them by the government, being that the government themselves, enslaved them for hundreds of years and told them that, all right, you're free now, go ahead, walk away. You never repaid me for slavery. So what they were saying was that this expropriation is a form of reparations, that those resources are now going to be utilized to help us fight for freedom within the country. So that's why when we kind of put it into perspective, it's always good to have an understanding as to what's really going on. If you kind of look at it just one way, you wouldn't understand what's really going on. You'd be like, oh, these guys, these dudes robbed some banks, whatever. No, they were taking these money because where else were they going to get the money from? Was the system going to pay them reparations for enslaving their families? No. So how else were they going to get the money if they were saying that we're going to fight for our freedom? You think the people were going to give them the money? No. So they went about expropriating it. The problem with that was that in the process of that, as in any war that happens, people die. So I mean, I'll get into the basis of you know, people dying and things of that nature, stuff like that. It says 8 incidents were alleged to have occurred between December 76 to October 81. In addition, he was charged with participation in the 1979 prison escape of Assata Shakur, who was now in exile in Cuba. The question of Dr. Shakur being charged with participation when in fact they allege he masterminded her escape reveals the true face of counterintelligence. So what the counterintelligence program is basically saying was that what the government is saying is that he helped Assata get out of prison. So now think about this, right? So you have people who you've known your whole life who say, yo, man, you know, I love you, man. And you go off to prison and you never hear from them again. People who in your life, your whole life, yo, I love you, man. Yo, man, you my boy, you my comrade, all that, right? You go off to prison, you don't hear from them until you come home again. The thing that made it remarkable about what these individuals, Mutulu Shakur, Assata Shakur, Lumumba Shakur, Zaid, all of these individuals who were part of the Black Liberation Movement, they didn't play that love stuff. They didn't play no love games. They was on a different type of love. All right, this was a human love, a love for the humanity of your personhood. When you talk about, you know, this is your brother, this is your sister, this is who you really love. That means that you consider this person to be sacred, that their blood was sacred. That when something was done to them, it was as if it was being done to you. And you wanted your brother and your sister to live with a level of dignity and honor and respect. You did not want your people to kind of be trampled over and it just be swept under the rug like it was all right to do. That's one thing that we always have to put into perspective. When we read our history books, we're not talking about Harriet Tubman and Frederick Douglass in the 1800s. We talking about the people in our era, people who we personally know, who are living right now, when you get around these peoples, you gotta ask them questions. Why was this? Why was that? Why did y'all do this? What was going on? They're like oral historians. They are the individuals who were on the front line helping to further the struggle for freedom for Black people in America. That might not sound like something to a lot of people who don't care anything about that. All they want to do is be on their phones all day, TikToking and concerned about their looks and all that. But to the people who that really, really means something to, these people did everything in their power to fight for the freedom of their people, man. Not no games, man. Real stuff going on. So when their comrades got locked up or captured, as they considered to be the enemy, what you think they did? You think they wrote letters? You think they just said, yo, we're going to send them some commissary? We're going to put a free such and such shirt on? Heck no, they went and got them. They was on a different type of level. So we need to really, really, really put things into perspective when we start talking about, you know, who these individuals are. Give me 1 second. Excuse me, y'all. So we want to put things into its proper perspective. So they didn't sit back and allow their comrades, their brothers and their sisters to say, you know what? Yeah, because at the time Assata Shakur was sentenced to like essentially life in prison. She was going to stay there for like ever. And they were like literally all right with that. Yeah, man, yo, man, we miss her. Yeah, man, she was a good one. Nah, they wasn't on that type of level. They was just on a different level. But you got to put it into perspective. Would you expect for the United States government and their soldiers just have Veterans Day the other day? Shout out to the troops out there, right? Let's keep it 100, right? But do you expect for the Marines to, what's their motto? Leave no man behind, right? Do you think that they would allow, if they knew that their comrade was in some place and they knew that that person was over there, you think they're going to get on a helicopter and just go to Hawaii? You can't expect that. No, they're going to go get that person. That is a fact. So in terms of putting it on that level, this is exactly how I see somebody put King Sun Ra, Shaka Shakur. You're right, brother. Jonathan Jackson was 17. So when putting it into that perspective, These individuals were literally on a whole different level. And this is why we got to give them the respect that they deserve. This is why we have to be aware of what's taking place with our elders. This is exactly why we don't allow information just to come across the airwaves like, yeah, Tupac's father is going to be released. Oh, word? Yeah, man. You heard about that? Oh, yeah. And it just goes out. Nah, you got to sit back and think about that. That should move you. That should trouble you. If you have any degree of love for your black people, of love for your community, and a dislike and a distaste towards the abuse, the oppression, and of what your people endured, you should feel a certain way that they're saying that this man is the only reason that we're going to release him is because, you literally, we don't think that, you have the mental or the physical capabilities of engaging in any other crimes ever again. I'm going to get to that in a minute, but let me keep reading. After 5 years underground, Dr. Shakur was arrested on February 12, 1986. He is the father of 6 children. His son Tupac was assassinated, as we all know, in 1996. He has solid evidence that it was a continuation of counterintelligence program. The FBI, the Federal Bureau of Prisons, and law enforcement made every effort to keep him separated from his son Tupac. And that's the end of that. But the statement that I want to get, this is what the judge stated, so you guys will have knowledge of this. And again, don't take anything I tell you on face value. You can basically do your own research. But the judge stated, we now find, I quote you, this is the judge in this case. We now find your medical condition tenders you do so infirm of mind and body that you are no longer physically capable of committing any federal and state or local crime. And this is just the reality of what I'm gonna say that again. We now find your medical condition tenders you so infirm of mind and body that you are no longer physically capable of committing any federal, state, or local crime. This is something that we should really, really take to heart. I'm gonna pull up sister real quick. Sister J. Renee, I'm putting the chat. I'm putting the link in the chat so that you can pull up, sis. Yeah. So and so this is just for clarification purposes. Just so you guys know that the reason why he was released is because they believe, that he's on his deathbed, and that's what he was given. He was given a deathbed a parole date. And that's just the truth. That's just how they view him. They have him at a point in which, you're 72 years old, you're dying. Okay, yeah, now we can let you go. We're not going to acknowledge your struggle. We're not going to, we're going to, and if you look at any videos on him, if you look at any videos of anybody from the Black Power movement that fought back against the system, when the system themselves were killing our leaders, we saw what they did to Malcolm X. We saw what they did to Medgar Evers. We saw what they did to Martin Luther King. We saw what they did to Fred Hampton. We saw what they did to Bunchy Carter. I mean, we can keep going on and on. But the reality was that when you put things into perspective, you see that these individuals were just assassinated. So did individuals have a right to fight back? Are they saying that? Are they saying that because we can kill you off and you can't fight back? Is that the implication that's being stated? We can kill you off, but you don't have a right to fight back. But when you do fight back, you're violating the laws of our land. Is that not immoral? Is that not oppressive? So what happens a lot of times, even when you do develop the ability to be able to fight back, what happens is that They criminalize you, they demonize you, and then they ostracize you. And I mentioned this before, that they criminalize you because they turn your political acts into a criminal every day. All right, sis, I see you. Into an everyday act of crime. They demonize you because they turn you into the worst of the worst, where you're looked at as a demon. They depict you in the worst picture imaginable. You know, you look like, you just literally, a savage in pursuit of happiness. They try to demonize you and project the image to the world as it's your worst part of yourself, that this criminal. And they use terms that are like red flag terms. If you look at any of the videos about, any of the Black Liberation Army members of the past, they say these terrorists, they're vile terrorists. But just a few years ago, Columbus was this great explorer who discovered America. We had a date for years that was named after this guy. So how is it that, we're this is vile terrorists that we are? You're just a vile, evil person, people. Oh, you guys, but you're not greater than Christopher Columbus. You don't deserve a day. You deserve 50 years in prison. You deserve to spend the rest of your life in prison. And if we do decide to let you out, you'll be dying of cancer. So you'll be dead anyway. You understand what I'm trying to say? And that right there is a very, very important way to kind of like view this. There's my sister.
Oh, I was.
What's up, sis?
How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. First of all, it's let me just shout out my sister here. This is Jay Renee, you guys, host of YouTube channel. You guys probably have heard me speak about her channel before. It's Prison Riot Radio. The sister is dynamic. She's on the front line. She's sacrificing her life, her time, her energy, her blood, sweat, and tears to see and ensure that our people are treated with a level of dignity and respect that we are entitled to. So if you have not already, subscribe to her channel, please. I would advise you, even if just for a minute, you just leave here and you have another phone, if possible, another device that you can use, please go right now to her channel, Prison Riot Radio. I'm going to put it into the chat. This is Sister J Renee. Please subscribe to her channel. She got some fire content. This is the sister right here. What's up, sis?
What's up, bro? I appreciate that introduction. It's been a while.
It has definitely been a while. So we're here talking about the elder. I mean, I don't have to give you a run of the mill of who he is and all of this stuff. I know that you are definitely knowledgeable of who the brother is, but with the knowledge that you do have about the elder, under his circumstances, under the conditions that he's faced with, like, what's your take on that? First off, right, on one hand. On the second hand, like, how would you, because I know that a critical part of the work that you do is that you hold a lot of these institutions accountable. You're like the voice of the voiceless for all intents and purposes. The brothers and sisters behind the wall who don't have a voice, you're like literally that conduit to help get their message out. How would you kind of like assist somebody in this predicament who the state is doing everything in their power to silence?
This happens more often than people realize. I think that this brother here, he's definitely been behind there too long. I was listening to the things that you were saying, and it's definitely by design when it comes to how they incarcerate you brothers and sisters too, but definitely the brothers, because they know that how much you're needed in the family structure and the community and things like that. So they purposely lock y'all away for obscene amount of time. This happens more often than people realize. And the things that we try to do with our platform is just give people a voice that have been back there a long time. He's more, more people know his name, but there's guys that have been back there over 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, and it's absolutely ridiculous. So it's very important for those that know what's going on to lift their voice and to spread and talk about it and things like that, because they're not going to change it on their own. Because if they were, it wouldn't even exist. We wouldn't be having this problem. So I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. We have to band together, be a voice for it, and stand up against it. And everybody has a part. Those that can get more involved in the legislative side and those things need to be active in that. Everybody has a voice and has different things to bring to this. Some people can just bring attention to it by sharing it. A lot of places they might have a large social media presence or things like that. So we definitely got to work together to try to combat against the things that they're doing to our people and especially the elders. And there's a lot of elders back there.
Yeah, great point. And I like the fact that you mentioned that because the brother, Mutulu, with all due respect to the elder, excuse me, he's somebody who, we all know. So he had the luxury of the people being behind him to kind of support his release. Continuously people in the Jericho movement. There were a lot of people kind of pushing for the federal government to release him from the Bureau of Prisons. Like, yo, listen, this man is old, he's dying.
Right.
We're waiting right now for Minister King to come up. He had another obligation, but I want him to come up to speak about some of the issues that are impacting the not Mutulu, but Mumia Abu Jamal right now as well. But you mentioned something with respects to um people not having knowledge of those who are suffering, just like the brother Mutulu behind these penal institutions, if not even worse.
Mm-hmm.
What about the people who we don't hear about? What about the older individuals who have, the different forms of cancer, and they're doing everything in their
Mm-hmm.
power to try to maintain their sanity in the madhouse, but because they don't have anybody on the outside speaking up for them, they just literally just die alone in their cell. And that
Mm-hmm.
that is the issue that I really applaud you, sis, because you're not someone who's just easily allowing people whose names we know nothing about to be forgotten. And you're doing a lot, man. And I know sometimes you're forced to kind of push this
Yeah.
put up against the system, which seems like the walls of Jericho are not coming right on down where we would like. But I do like the fact that no matter what, you're still resisting, you're still pushing back, because with that force of resistance, eventually the walls of Jericho have to come tumbling down. But so what's specifically, like, because I always actually, I asked you this before, what specifically like motivates you and keeps you like inspired to do this work? Like, that's to me is like the most important part, because it's easy to live a life and do whatever the hell you want to do, but like, why
Mm-hmm.
is it that you just don't want to forget about people that's in these programs? Like, what's the thing about that? You know what I mean?
You know what, bro? Like, I can't. I always tell people I could never be a lawyer because there's no way I could be at my house sleeping at night knowing that somebody need a paper filed and I'm not going to file it because they don't have however much it costs. So I just, ever since I was younger, I've always had incarceration in my life and I was impacted by it at a young age. Um, so to me, people that are incarcerated and formerly so are just normal. Like, it's no different. It's not them and us or us and them or nothing like that. So I've genuinely loved people that are impacted by incarceration and incarcerated. My uncle was the first incident of that. I was a young kid, and I always heard stories of him from my cousins that got to meet him, and then he came home after doing like 22 years. You know what I mean? And I loved him. That was my uncle. So, just having that genuine love and it's just what's right. Like, we human beings, so to not care for other human beings when you have the ability to and have the means to or have the capabilities or the skills to, it just doesn't make sense to me. I couldn't I was always been that person, like, no one could come and tell me something that was going on and I wasn't going to try to correct it. Like, I was always there for the underdog. I used to be the one that would bully the bullies if I found out something was going on. It was just my personality to just stand up for others. It's just something in me. I remember times where I wish someone would have stood up for me and they didn't. And I guess that probably motivates me too, to be able to want to stand up for others and be their voice and be their support in the times I remember that I didn't have that. So I don't know. I'm just, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, bro. So whatever it is, that mix of everything I needed, it's just in me, and I'm in an opportunity where I can do this full time, and I do it. I can't say that I enjoy it because I hate that I have to even do this work. I wish it was nothing to do, as far as there was no injustice, there was no inhumane, there was no wrongful convictions and stuff like that. But it's my purpose. So I can't see what outside we doing. I can add to, I can't see me taken away.
Yeah, nah, and I respect that, and kind of bringing it back to, Mutulu and stuff like that. I was fortunate to be in the presence of, the Herman Bells and the Jalil Muntakims and things of that nature while I was incarcerated, and I did everything in my power to kind of like take advantage of all of the information that I knew I can get from them, because I didn't know, because they were like so like high political, what I mean, like you didn't know whether or not they would be there one day and kind of go on the next. Like when they come get them, they come get them at any time of the day. They're moving literally with all type of different security, and it's kind of crazy. So I used to always try to like drain them for information, because I was like, yo, listen, I'm in the presence of our predecessors who were literally there. And a lot of times I think what we take for granted is that, the little bit of freedoms that we have, that somehow that they won't be taken away from us. And that was something that I prided myself on, when I was incarcerated, and even now, like kind of putting that into perspective, not to lose sight of the people who gave their lives for the basic amenities that we take for granted. I mean, Mutulu Shakur was just a prime example of that. And I just read his bio, and we get an opportunity. And that I believe that bio does a disservice, because it doesn't speak exactly to who he is in its entirety and all of the work that he's actually engaged in or that he actually did. It just gives a snapshot of some of the things that he was responsible for. But when you kind of put things into perspective, it makes you appreciate who those individuals were that came before us, and why the work that we do is so important, kind of giving back. I see somebody put it in the chat of, working with the kids, reach the kids, and whack out 100. It's no doubt what you're saying is all 100. And I think that this episode here is not, we just kind of like focusing on the elder in this case, but nobody's going to invalidate that what you're saying is important. I totally agree. So what you think about that, Jay Renee? Do you think that, what's your take on the fact that the judge stated what he said, that the only reason that we're releasing Mutulu is because they believe, that he can't, what I'm saying, he can't commit another state or federal crime. Like, what's your take on that?
My first mind is a lot of profanity, so I ain't gonna say that. How can I put this? We know what this is, I don't even know how to put it into words. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that even has to be said.
Yeah.
It's just something to say. It perpetuates the narrative that they try to push down the throats of, like he's just some rage criminal that's gonna come out here and try to break in people's cars. Like, yeah, we know you ain't gonna do that. He's not trying to do that. That's not even the type of time he's on. They know that, but they have to double down on that, on the bull jockey. They got to double down on that. They can't ever admit that they were wrong or anything. So they got to make it seem like he's still a problem. Well, he's always been the problem, but now he's not. They have to carry it like that because they're cowards.
Yeah, I totally agree. I see we got the Rich Mindset TV up in the building. Shout it out to our brother. Shout it out, man. Yeah, I see he up in the building. I see, man. Shout out, man. If y'all pulling up for the first time, please, man, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and please, man, like I said, go to the sister right here, Prison Riot Radio. Do not pass by and not hit that subscribe button. The sister needs support. She's on the front line, and I'm gonna call us out, because I think that we have a tendency at times. And this is not to anybody that's in the chat, but I'm just speaking in general. And I'm holding myself to account first, is that we don't have a problem supporting the nonsense that's on the airwaves. All day long we tapped into the senselessness, but now we have topics that we can actually gain some benefit from, and it's actually calling us to action. So I'm calling you guys to action, saying, listen, tap into the sister's YouTube page, because she needs support, right? But not only tap into that, but let's try to figure out how we can support her in her endeavors as well. We need to really, really start thinking outside the box and start supporting people who are actually doing things that's beneficial as well. First Class Empire, shout it out. So what's going on besides that, sis? What's the deal? What's on the agenda? What's up?
Prison Riot Radio is definitely growing. We're reaching more places. The last time that we talked, I have definitely connected with a lot more brothers and a lot more sisters, which is a special place for me being a woman. I love to help my brothers, but I definitely love to help my sisters.
Absolutely.
We've reached Canada now, Alaska. I even got a call from somebody from North Dakota. You know what I mean? So we're bringing more exposure to people's talents, getting them out there. So many more musicians I've met, authors. I met this brother that wrote over 200 books. You know what I mean? Poets. We got brothers that are getting into the movie business, but we've also been exposing some wrongful convictions. We got Tamik Kirkland, his a wrongful conviction. He's got evidence proof. We got, I always got some names for you, bro.
Yeah.
I always got some
Nah,
names.
you listen, listen. When you come up here, I want you to give
Yeah.
the business, man, because I want you to be fully transparent, please.
Right. Then we got Myron Brooks. He's been locked up. Let me see. He's been locked up for 26 years for a crime he didn't commit. And these brothers, they be sending me the proof of this. This is not just out of their mouth. You know what I mean? We got the brother Kevin Rashid Johnson.
That's the brother right there, man.
Yeah, for sure. He's going through it. He's not well, and they are giving him a hard time. The facilities that he's at, I've heard the water is dirty. It's looking like tea. He is close to a facility that does have health care, but you know how that can go in that instance. And they're not doing what they can do to assist him. In my opinion, I feel like they're trying and they want harm to come to him. Who else we got? Let me see. I got some more. I got mail all around me, bro. Let me see. We got another brother. His name is Timothy Rice. He's another wrongful conviction.
Where is let's start from the beginning. So the first brother, where is he at? Where is he currently located? And where is Kevin Rashid located? And this brother right here, Mr. Rice, where are these individuals at?
So Kevin Rashid is in Virginia. Tamik Kirkland, I will have to look that up for you. Myron Brooks, he is currently in Michigan.
Yes, Michigan.
Michigan. He's in Michigan. Let me see if I can bring up Tamil Kirkland for you. But yeah, brother Rashid is in a facility in Virginia. They bounce him around. Then we got Kwame Bean Shakur. He's up in Indiana. He's a political prisoner, and one of the brothers, a young brother that is highly respected by a lot of the elders as far as the revolutionaries and stuff. He is still getting discriminated against. He did all the stuff he was supposed to do to get put back into general population, and it didn't move him. They moved everybody but him, and said that someone called down and said that he won't be removed because they feel like he's going to be an issue. But he's checked all the boxes, did all the things he was supposed to get, had his transfer papers and everything, and they snatched that from him.
Well, one thing I do know, and I didn't mean to cut you off, my sister. One thing I do know is that when I was not as politicized as I became, because early in my bid, I mean, I was fighting against the officers and all of the unjust rule, the unjust stuff that I saw on Rikers Island and up north. Right, it was never a time that I was not fighting against that. But it was not until I became more politicized. And it's one thing to read your books, but it's one thing now to start putting that stuff into action. So I learned that you start agitating yourself. I mean, you start agitating. You learn, you go through that process of agitation, education, right, and then mobilization. And I realized that the more politicized that I became, the more the state came down on me. This is when the frame ups happened. This is when I was moved from here to there. This is when my family didn't know anything that was going on. This is when they tried to silence me. This is when they were just fabricating up. I mean, I never seen so much fabrication in my life that it literally became, and I'm nowhere, with all due respect to the Mutulu Shakurs of the world, the Asada Shakurs and things of that nature. But now I'm a living testament of somebody who went through my own struggles behind the wall. right? Where I was fighting against the Attica correctional facilities, the Clinton correctional facilities, the Comstock correctional facilities, the Auburn correctional facilities. I know what that looks like to be sitting in administrative segregation, not knowing when you coming out. I know what it feels like to be in the box for 23 hours a day and you don't know whether or not you're going to come out that box. I know what it feels like to be in them chains. They moving you late at night, early in the morning, on the weekend sometimes, and you don't even realize where you're going. You dig what I'm saying? And you go into places where they can literally snuff you out. So all that stuff that them brothers and sisters are going through, I know exactly what they're going through. When you pour your sink water on and the water comes out brown, right? So there's a lot of stuff, man, that happened. Like even physically, I'm not the same, right? I mean, physically, and I don't have none of the. I mean, I exercise to the best of my ability, but I don't have the, like, physically, the injuries I have are a result of my interactions with the authorities on the inside. The frame ups were out of this world. The false documentation is out of this world, right? And that as peace officers are not supposed to, ideally, falsify documents. This is quote unquote a federal offense, so to speak.
Right.
It's so systemic. It's so profound that this happens on a regular basis, that once you become, or you're perceived to be, allegedly this threat, so to speak, they can literally say almost anything about you and it's going to be taken as truth. So we definitely need to support our brothers and sisters on the inside, because if they lose the support of out here, of those of us out here, the authorities will do almost anything to silence them. Almost anything. They can kill them with impunity and nobody will get caught. Nobody will go to jail. It's just the reality. So, to bringing it back to Mutulu's case, these is just some of the things that I know that not only they went through, but their comrades, not only he went through, but his comrades as well, of these fabricated charges of crimes that they were alleged to have committed. And we know that in many instances they didn't do most of the stuff that they were accused of, but this is just the nature of the system and things of that nature. And we should always highlight these things, sis, because it's important that we speak about these injustices, because perhaps it might inspire a generation of people to act on that. You know what I mean? Because we have a right, we have a human and a moral right to kind of act out, to act out against these forms of abuse and oppression that takes place. Nobody should be drinking water that's coming out their sink that look like the color of tea. Nobody should be getting thrown down a flight of stairs and it's all right. They talk about, yeah, they just killed another black nigga. No, that shouldn't be the case. I have a right to stand up against that injustice when it's taking place. You dig what I'm saying? And I shouldn't be criminalized when it happens neither. Listen, y'all tune in to We Locked In, man. If this is your first time tuning in, please hit that subscribe button. I'm here alongside my sister Jay Renee, host of Prison Riot Radio. What's up, sis? I didn't mean to cut you off. I know you was
No,
kind of.
you okay? I was going to roll.
Yeah, you know me. I just keep
talk.
going.
I do want to talk about. Let me plug up right quick so I don't lose power. But my sister Brittany Martin, she's still incarcerated down in South Carolina.
Yeah, horrible situation.
Yeah,
horrible.
The pregnant mother. She has 5 children at home, if I'm not mistaken. She's pregnant now. She is pretty much there. Though it got really bright, huh? I guess I needed to bin plug in. She's pretty much there though because she of a chant. But the real reason why she's there is because they're upset of her efforts, because she be giving them hell in South Carolina, and she, travels in support of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd and stuff when that was like really heavy in rotation. So yeah, they said that they was going to uphold her sentence, which was 4 years for a chant, okay, inciting a riot. But the way that they put it on there, it's like aggravated. So they're doing appeals. So we're hoping that goes through. And she's doing the best that she can. She still needs support 100%.
Yeah, and that's the crazy part, because the sister. I mean, explain exactly what the sister did, because a lot of people are not aware of what she's been accused of, and I don't think people are aware of how much time she was sentenced. Now, you briefly touched on the fact that she was given 4 years, right? But exactly what were the circumstances that led to her standing up the way that she did and her getting the time that she got?
Okay, so she was at a protest that was in support of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, and she was leading a chant, and the chant was, or part of the chant was, "I'm willing to die for the black. Are you willing to die for the blue?" So this was a chant. Nothing ever got physical. All rules and regulations were followed. No destruction of property or anything like that. They charged her with inciting a riot, and they made it aggravated. So when she went to court for it, that's how it was presented. A lot say that the jury really didn't have a clear cut vision of what the result would be if found guilty of it, the way that it was presented. They found her guilty and she was sentenced to 4 years. And they took her there, and she tried to get it, thrown out pretty much, because that's like ridiculous. 4 years, what do you mean? And the judge was like, nah, we're gonna let it stay what it is. So now they're in the appeal process to try to see if they can get it overturned. And if you think about it, it's like the people that ran up in the Capitol, some of them got probation, some of them got, just ankle monitors, and somebody like died there and people were injured. And this is supposed to be the Capitol, so it's absolutely ridiculous that they would get off so easily, and she's getting sentenced to 4 years for a chant where no riot was incited, nothing was destroyed, nobody got hurt, and no rule and no laws was broken.
Yeah, and first of all, our brother KK just pulled up. Shout it out, K man. What's up? Salam alaikum, my brother.
Alaikum assalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. What's happening? Peace, Queen. How you feeling?
What's up, bro? Peace. I'm well. How you?
Yeah. Yeah, sorry I'm late, bro. I'm sitting there running around going on that I almost forgot. I said, oh, me on. Let me check.
Nah, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I just told Mr. King the same thing. He like, yo, Moshe, man, man. I said, man, you ain't got to, man, brothers, man. We living our lives, and everything that we're doing is equally significant because we're all doing work.
Uh,
It's not as if we're not doing anything. We're doing the work. So, what you're doing is significant. And it's not to be invalidated. And I'm sitting here listening to the sister speak, and I hear that, right, and I kind of think that. And I always, being at the subject of the conversation tonight is the brother Mutulu Shakur. It makes me think about how our predecessors would act. Like, so when I used to be walking around the yard with the elders, I used to always be asking them, like, what do you think about the current state of affairs that we're confronted with today? And how would you respond if you were young today? Like, you know what I mean? And, I was surprised in many instances that not so much that the level of confrontation or the fact that they would not respond to the issues, but that they expect us to do it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, yo, like I did what I did. Like, you guys have the moment now. You know what I mean? Like, so our predecessors expect let me tell you something. To let them down is one of the biggest things that we could possibly do
yeah.
to their legacy, knowing that we have our brothers and sisters, our sisters and brothers, our kings and queens who sacrificed and gave so much so that we can enjoy so much, right? And us just not to do anything. I think that that's so disrespectful. And the reason why I know that that's disrespectful is because I've heard our elders share that with me, of how much of a disrespect and how much it hurts to see that they've given their lives to something that, individuals just don't seem to appreciate. I always used to say this when I used to be locked up and I used to see people getting killed left and right. They killed Mike Brown. They killed Tamir Rice. They killed Sean Bell. It's like they killing us left and right. And I was like, damn, when I get home, I'm like, yo, the worst thing I want in that moment is you just to organize around my death after I'm dead, right? It's like people are living right now suffering. People are suffering right now, and we're not organizing ourselves around that. There are issues right now that need to be addressed, and we're not uniting ourselves, addressing these pertinent issues. And I think that's just as much of a crime as some of the crimes that we actually speak out against as well. But I mean, again, I don't want to detract for anything like that, but it's just that's very important. That's significant for me because we're not acting. We're not acting when we have the opportunity to act. Now, again, I'm not condoning senselessness, running amok and doing nothing. I'm saying that we have the ability to be able to utilize our platforms to do so in a manner that's actually helping to move the needle and we can actually empower ourselves. But that's not the case. And I struggle with that. I struggle with just trying to figure out, you know what I mean? Like, what is the biggest issue with us, you know, galvanizing our communities and moving ourselves around concrete issues, other than the fact when somebody get their head blown off by the police. It's like, that's the only time we come together. That's the only time we upset. But again, I digress. Kel, I know you got something to say, K. What's up, bro? You on mute, beloved?
Yeah. All right, bro. One, I think that the message that's up, I think it's covering the box. But I had a story though with Mutulu though, because I actually met him over the phone. Right? My aunt, she had, it was her brother Randy. He used to be with Randy's home now, and that was like his partner in there. So I ended up calling her, and she was telling him about my situation. She was like, he was like, damn, you know, young brother got all that time. He caught up, and it was just the passion with him and her brother Randy. Is like they just not meet me, and just because of all, they were just trying to help me get out of jail. That was just the spirit, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, we gonna do everything we can. We trying to help you, bro. What happened with your case? And you know how we get into it when you start asking you questions pertaining to your indictment, how the charge was set up, how trial, what motions were settled, how did they charge you? They were just going into everything. You know what I'm saying? They're just really, really trying to help me, and they didn't really know me from nowhere. And it's just that in that particular spirit, though, was how I was introduced to him, bro. And just seeing that, just seeing like he's still that same individual, just fighting, trying to help individuals, and always was selfless. That's the biggest thing. I mean, like, bro.
What was when you spoke to Mutulu? What was his level of energy? Like what? How was it? Because I mean, he's been sick for quite some time now.
Yes, this was years ago, because I was still out. Like, I was still in the pen. This was probably at least 7 years ago.
Okay.
I'm saying at least, you know what I'm saying, at least, if not more. And they was in, they was in the Atlanta penitentiary. Him and the brothers. So now the Randy's home already, but he still was actually going through it. And when I saw it, when you had sent us the message, and I told you, I said, yo, I had just got that message beforehand, and it was something about him it had something about a deathbed visit, and he was in the hospital bed, and they was letting him go, and I'm like, damn. It just made me just think of just how selfless brothers like that are, bro. And then just for the movement, period, how much they done sacrificed, how much they gave. And that spirit doesn't go nowhere, bro. No matter your situation, no matter what you're going through. And it just sparked that in me, man. Like, he was just always going to fight. I mean, that's just in their nature, bro. And I just love them for that. You know, just willing. And I ain't think nothing of it. I'm like, yo, you want to help me? Like, hey, yo, we need your information. Get your minutes. What minutes? You send your minutes to this thing, and get your discovery. And
Yo, you know, the crazy thing, and this is something that we can't like overlook, man, that and I think that we really, I'm speaking that as overall as a people, like we really, I mean, do you guys, let me ask the question first before I say it. Do you think that we, like, people overall just don't care? Like, do you think that it's just like, why are we even having this conversation about somebody like this who's about to die and who has cancer? And do you think like people really care? Honestly. And I'm talking about our community over as a whole, overall.
honestly, I don't be thinking they do care, bro.
What about you, Jay?
I think some care. All of them as a whole, no. I think those that are familiar with who he is care. Those that don't know who he is might not care, but some that might not know who he is will have compassion and care. But I still have hope in humanity, so I can't say that they don't care. I can't to believe that. What am I doing? You know what I mean?
See, there's a thing though. Like, it's sometimes when a person doesn't, it doesn't mean that they're like it's over with, or I'm saying that there's no more hope. Because I always look at how I felt in my particular thinking. Right, one time I didn't care, and once once I educated myself and once I just learned certain things, man, and it just made me look at things a totally different way. Like my heart actually changed. And that can happen. I mean, that's the most powerful thing in the world. Like change is imminent in anybody. It just depending on what is it going to take for the individual to change. I'm saying like it didn't take like with me, and it didn't take me getting shot, like and took a shot, got shot in my head, boom, still ain't changed. Went to prison, still ain't changed. Got rearrested while I was in prison, got a whole bunch of time, still ain't changed. And it took me hitting, I guess, hitting the proverbial bottom inside of myself, though. Not my surroundings, but myself feeling like there's a ceiling over me, like feeling like this is it, this is over, this is like, what are you going to do now? And a lot of times you don't never know what it's going to take for an individual to actually finally, be humbled in a sense and really look at what it's going to take to actually change themselves. Because once they actually see that and they get tired of their situation, then they start to look outside of themselves. And then once I saw that, I actually started caring about people. And me, I was like kind of heartless. I like, gang culture, street things, and I had to, for one, protect my heart in a sense. But then doing that, you tend to lose it from covering it up so much. But then after a while, it's like after seeing that, and then you start to become aware of your emotions and how you feel and how you view things, and not just your perspective but others' perspective, and it makes you check yourself.
Right.
And I started looking at even old revolutionaries, and I loved and I fell in love with like Che Guevara, like just and one of his and I love his quote. One of the things he said was like every revolutionary act is an act of love. And to understand that, it's like, love. What? Every revolutionary act is an act of love. What? And you really have to have a deep sense of love, not just for yourself. You know what I'm saying? That comes first, but for your people.
I
Then
agree with you.
then you be able to be like you said, the sister who got arrested, like I hope everything like plays out well for her, but you'll have the strength to do that because you love your people that much and you're willing to die for that.
I agree with you. So I went through and I had to bring it back to myself. And thank you for that, KK, and you too, Jay. And I agree with both of y'all, right? I'm very optimistic. I've never been a pessimistic person. Even we were together on the inside, K. It was like you never really seemed like, oh, nah, it's not gonna work. Oh, we were like in prison, and I still kind of always thought the bright side of things. Like, everything's gonna be all right. Everything's gonna be great. We're gonna be all right. We're gonna make it, right? So I always, to Jay Renee's point, I kind of always believe in us, even though I do kind of feel sometimes like I'm disappointed, but I also feel like no matter what, we'll at some point get it together. But I remember going through my own transformation, and it was honestly, it was me kind of reading up on the struggle of our predecessors. I saw that there were people who committed themselves to fighting for what they believed to be right. And I remember being a part of the gang subculture at the time. And when I looked at all of the constitutions and the bylaws and everything that the culture stood for, I thought that, wow, this was like ideally sounding exactly what I was reading when I was reading the books and the articles on what these predecessors were fighting for, because we were talking about, fighting for the rights and the upliftment of your community. I was like, yo, I'm a revolutionary.
You talking about yo, I rep the 5. I rep the 5.
No, yo, bro, it was no doubt that in my mind,
Yeah, I know.
I'm saying that what I'm fighting for. So although I didn't meet Mutulu in person, I knew him. Although I did not meet Mumia Abu Jamal, I knew them because I know that what they were fighting for, I also was fighting for as well. That's exactly how I looked at it. And I didn't look at it any other way than that, because I felt like we had a right, an unalienable right to fight for the rights of our people, our community, who historically, or at least traditionally in this country, have been mistreated. And we have a right to prolong that, to teach our kids that history, not to make it appear that Nat Turner was a bad man because he didn't want to be enslaved. You know what I'm saying? We need to talk about that story. We need to say he was a hero to us. He was somebody who needs to be revered. And we need to talk about him with honor, with dignity. You know what I'm saying? Like, we shouldn't look at it a bad way that, you know, a slave rebellion, you know, didn't take place because it was like, oh, somebody went and told on the slaves and they had to hang them. No, I'm going to teach the kids that. You know why? Because that's what they need to hear. They need to hear that about our culture. And that, to me, is what helped me on my journey as I began to evolve. I was like, yo, I can't say certain things no more. I can't do certain things no more. It came with a level of responsibility and appreciation. It was like, yo, so that love that Jay Renee is speaking about, I can relate to that. I can relate. I don't have to know you to feel you. You know what I mean? And I think that is the humane part of that. I think, although we try to dehumanize each other, I think that's a plot so that we don't have to necessarily feel for each other. I think it's a front, a facade. But because I believe that at some point, once you start to gain that level of awareness about yourself, your culture, who we are, and where we come from, you'll be more concerned with trying to develop systems to help construct us more than destroying us overall. You know, but pardon me. What's up, sis? I know you got something you want to say. What's it?
I definitely agree, and I was listening to y'all, and the moments that y'all was saying that kind of made you more compassionate. And I will say that I did a transition. Like, I got really into reading, and I went from fiction to nonfiction. And the more nonfiction books that I've read about our people, I will say that it definitely helped cultivate the person that I am today. The more you know about your history and about your people and what's going on with them and what they went through, it do something to you inside that definitely can resonate in a lot of ways in how you move from there forward. So I definitely can relate to that way. Even though my heart was already, like, I already had a big heart, it definitely, reading those things about our ancestors and those before us and the trailblazers and things like that definitely sparked something in me that wasn't there before I read about it. Most definitely.
So, you know, there's been talk that you know, and I know that this, I have to bring this up, but there's been talk that the late Tupac Shakur, his death, the lack of urgency towards kind of like solving it in the immediate aftermath and all the stuff that has come from that is actually by design, right? You know, we have all the theories and all this other stuff, but something that Mutulu mentioned was that they did everything in their power to not allow Tupac to see Mutulu Shakur on a regular basis. And for quite some time, Mutulu was in USP Atlanta, which is literally down south. So it wasn't like Tupac couldn't see him on a regular basis, but he could. You know, why was it that they did everything in their power to prevent Tupac from going to see his own father like that? That is a question that, I mean, you guys do you guys even want to kind of like answer that? I know you guys don't know the answer to that, but what's your take on that overall?
I'll let you go first.
Of what the elder stated.
I'll let you go first. There you go.
The Fed, like when you're in the federal, is different. It ain't like how, you know, like when we was in the state, the visit thing is a lot more strenuous, bro. So, like they would, like, even now, like I got a cousin with 2 cousins in there. You have to be on approved list. It don't matter who you are. They allow and disallow who can come see you. So that's just a simple way of just saying that, like, and him saying that, like, yo, them not allowing him to see him. That's just the penitentiary itself.
Yeah, but according to what Mutulu was saying, it wasn't the US. It wasn't USP Atlanta. It was the Bureau of Prisons, right?
Yeah.
And that we know is a federal institution, but it was more sinister. That's his son, right? We're not talking about, you know, an extended member of his family. We talk about,
So we know, like, the process, and I will figure it was probably be like a similar process to what we're going through. I'll just compare it to like something I went through, like in the state when a cousin was beefing with the police. They put him down on a computer. He can't come in. There won't, no incident happened, no infraction or nothing. Like for years, they just had him in the computer Like, he can't come see me. And I had to actually write and challenge everybody, superintendent, everybody, like, to finally, like, to get him allowed in. And all it was just something put in the computer by somebody.
Yeah. No, I get it. I understand what you're saying. I get that. But what about you, Jay Renee? You take that, you have that same nonchalant point of view, because KK, he's
I think this is just my personal opinion. I feel like because of who his father was and because of who the son was, they made sure that they didn't get to communicate, because his son had a lot of influence, and anybody that pays attention knows that music has a heavy influence in the youth lives and people's lives, period. So I feel like it was definitely manufactured to keep them from communicating, because they didn't want none of the gems that he had to be dropped to his son for him to spread to the people. And I can't put it past America, because that's the type of things that they do.
Our brother Darren Mack just pulled up, man. What's up, my brother? How you doing, man?
Peace and blessings. Assalamu alaikum. Salutations.
Yeah. So, first of all, we thank you for gracing us with your presence, my brother, man, and we truly appreciate for having you on with us. So, I mean, I know you've been hearing a lot. You are definitely a subscriber, supporter of the channel, and we definitely appreciate for having you here. So, give us a little backdrop about what's your views on this whole conversation about Mutulu and everything that we've been talking about, man. You could pretty much, the floor is yours.
Yeah, briefly, just to be quick, thank you so much for for bringing me in to this conversation, and Jay, definitely we need to connect, like Prison Riot Radio. For those who don't know, you definitely need to lock in and tune in to the work that that you're doing. Yeah, it's like I was, for those who don't know, like, I was incarcerated at 17 years old, did 20 years in New York State prison system. And I had, the honor of, being mentored for a little while with a former political prisoner by the name of Abdul Majid, and yeah, he passed away during his incarceration. And coming home after being politicized, coming home and doing work around, the carceral system. And after my 9 to 5, I was like, I need to be doing some other work, and political prisons is some of the work that I've been engaged in. So there's this thing called Curb Fest that happens, in different cities, different communities, in every single year. I had a chance to participate and support the Curb Fest in New York City and Harlem in August. August is also known as Black August. And then I was out in Boston, the BLM Boston chapter out there just had a Curb Fest for political prisoners with the brother Sekou Odinga came out and spoke. For those who don't know, you might know Assad Shakur, but the architect of getting Assad Shakur out of prison and into Cuba was Sekou Odinga, who did 33 years. So political prisoners, like, I'm supporting that work as much as I can. And yeah, how do we expect people to make the sacrifices for our people if we don't support the people who are currently incarcerated for the sacrifices they made for the movement and our people? So I'll just leave it at that. And yeah, gotta definitely uplift Prison Riot Radio.
Yeah. Great point, man. Shout it out to, and thank you for that, my brother. Shout it out to Sekou Odinga, the elder. As you stated, he did 33 years in prison. And Sekou Odinga is definitely a veteran Black Liberation Army soldier, a veteran Black Panther Party member. He was definitely on the front lines in the struggle. He's, an elder who has been released after all these years, and he's still on the front line. And may Allah preserve and raise in rank that the late elder Abdul Majid, both him and his co-defendant Abdul Bashir. He passed away as well. They were part of a group known as the Queens too. and they were definitely on the front line as well. So may Allah have mercy upon them and forgive them their sins. I mean, I really appreciate those type of elders, because every morsel of wisdom that they bestowed upon me gave me, it helped quench my thirst and help guide me along the way. And I knew that I had a purpose now, right? That was more bigger than what I thought it was, right? They helped kind of like shape and mold that way of thinking for me when being in their presence. So I'm really appreciative of the time that I spent with them. I used to walk around the yard, literally, man. When Mr. Bell came outside, people would be like, yo, they would be trying to come talk to me, like, yo, Mo, let me talk to you. I'd be like, yo, I need to go talk to Mr. Bell. I used to walk around with Mr. Bell the entire rec period. If I wasn't working out in the shack, I used to walk with Mr. Bell for 2 hours straight, every single rec period, every rec, right? I mean, I told him, I said, listen, I'm gonna squeeze your brain of every ounce that you have of it. Yo, I told the elder, I said, yo, I need everything you got, because I don't know when I'm gonna see you again. And that's the brother right there. And shout out to Mr. Bell. So Jay, so real quick, so what do you have in store, like, for some upcoming projects that I already know you 2023 is going to be huge for you, at least, inshallah. You got some big things that you want to do. What's going on with you, man? Talk about it.
Well, one of the things that I'm heavily supporting is the brother I was talking about, Kwame Bean Shakur, up in Wabash Correctional, that's up in Indiana. He's putting out the Prison Lives Matter journal. And this particular journal, this is the second one, is actually geared towards talking about our elders that's incarcerated, the ones that need to be free, the things that they're going through. So I'm definitely collecting submissions for that. If somebody wants to submit for that, it has to be from an elder or talking about the situation, what's going on with our elders. Y'all can definitely reach out to me and I'll make sure that it gets to them to put that in. What else is going on? Oh, I'll be starting the documentary. I got the documentary series 12, where I go state to state and bring exposure to the corrupt systems that they have, be it whoever it is, what's ever going on. So I'll be going to Maryland next. I'll be focusing on Baltimore and the surrounding areas. So that's something that I'm going to be doing, and just expanding Prison Riot Radio. It's been it seems like every so often it's growing to something more. Before, it started off as music, then they grew into bringing exposure to corruption and things like that. And now it's going to other things. We got a system now to, like, if someone came home and they need assistance with, like, filling out job applications and stuff like that, we got some sisters that'll sit on the phone and they'll help you work through that. Me and another couple of sisters are working together where we're starting a service for brothers and sisters that are incarcerated. If they want to do something for their kids or their loved ones, surprise their mom or something like that, will be the segue for that. So we can help you get flowers sent to your mom, or help you get kids sent, or get toys sent to your children and stuff like that. And the fee that we're going to charge is like $5 or $10, because it's nothing to give a little bit of time, you know what I mean? And it's going to be very, we're not trying to cheat nobody or nothing like that. So that's another big thing. And just keep growing and see where it goes. It is me by myself. It can be hard. I would hope to get a junior journalist to assist me. I have a couple that seem that they might be the ones. I hope that they can, so they can assist me with just continuing to help the brothers and sisters create a voice or amplify their voices. So that's what I got going on, and continue to fight against the machine and always stay sucker free. That's what I got.
Yo, I was just about to ask you that. Like, what are some of these challenges that you face? But you kind of answered that. And how do you deal with that? Like, even though, and I know you both, KK and Darren, I know you can kind of relate to that. But Jay, how do you deal with being by yourself, but wanting to kind of still contribute on the level that you want to contribute on? How do you deal with that? Like, what's your approach to that?
Well, I definitely have to make a schedule, and I got to keep to it. And I just try to pace myself, and I place myself So I make sure that I'm not doing too much to where I can't accommodate those that I'm helping. Like I can't stretch myself too thin because somebody will be out there flapping that I'm trying to assist. So I'm very mindful of where I place myself. I got a system down. I schedule time with people. They can call me. They got a half an hour slot. Some people take an hour, depending what we got going on. And I just be about the time. I wake up early sometimes if I have to, and I just get it done. I make sure I schedule me a day where I do less because self-care is important. And when it comes to mail, I just be knocking it out. Sometimes I just sit down and I'm like, today I'm gonna do mail. So I go through the snail mail, and then I might have a day I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go through all of the digital mail, like JPay, Core Links, and all of that, because every place seems to have a different system. So I just try to just do my best, put my best foot forward. I let people know that it is just me. It might take me 3 days to write you back, but I got you. You know what I mean? Like, don't beat me up. Just give me a chance. So I just try to just stay steady on the course, not get overwhelmed, make the best of my time, and schedule time for myself so I can just tap out for a minute so I don't get burnt out.
Yeah, and that's important. I think we need to develop more robust systems that will allow us to kind of help us address all of these maladies that we're confronted with. I mean, so I'm looking at the work that
So
you're.
the system is actually it's crazy. No, you talking about what we
Mm-hmm.
spoke about with EM3. That's actually what that system is for.
What you mean, my brother?
As far as developing a network for us to help. So every
Oh,
port,
okay.
every piece, every department is already like formulated and structured. So now, like what we actually going through is just sitting down, going through all the specifics to make sure everything is right. So now when we do be able to tap in, it won't be just regular conversations or just sharing information anymore. To actually be all right. Contractual stuff we can actually sit down and go over. You know, like, all right, what type of help you needed, what type of funds is needed. We have people in this area that can come help. You know what I'm saying? Spending time and then and move forward from there because there's so many particular avenues. Just like from the summit, just from that alone, it just showed me. And one of the things that I spoke about there was all the many pieces, and so many of us like we play a role in the liberation of our people, bro. And it's not just one thing. It ain't just one particular thing that it needs to be addressed. It's everything. You know what I'm saying? But us, like this four right here, we don't cover everything. You know what I'm saying? We have our part that we're actually playing in a role that we're able to do. So now it's just really just solidifying, finding those corner pieces actually to help get the frame right so we can start, putting the things that we be able to really, really tap in with each other and make some things happen. But now it's just, just connecting the minds, man, connecting the minds, getting the information out there, sharing, getting to know each other, and and just continue to build. Oh.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Can we hear?
We can't hear you, Moshe.
Pardon me. Thank you so much, y'all. So, Darren, when you spoke about being in the presence of those individuals like the late Abdul Majid, Rahim Allah Ta'ala, when you spoke about being in his presence and being inspired to act, now that you're out here, and without obviously revealing too much, but just speak to that need of wanting to address those issues based on the correlation between that relationship you had with the late elder. Like what is so significant about that, and that being correlated to the work that you're doing right now?
Yeah. So Abdul Majid was actually he was like one of the one political prisoner that I had like a lot of like interaction with. Like sat in his classes, been in more than one prison with him. Under his tutelage, and I met others. Like I actually met Herman Bell when I was in Easton. With briefly in Easton Correctional Facility, and I came across a couple of others. But like when he passed away, it kind of hit me hard, you know. And I didn't know at the time there was actually, you know, organizations like Jericho Movement that was working to like free political prisoners. And then I think I came across after his you know, his transition, I came across like, you know, different organizations that's working to free political prisoners. And I was like, man, I need to work to dedicate some time and some energy to support these efforts, you know, because if, you know, I believe if I would grew up in that time when that movement was happening, I would have probably been involved and been a political prisoner myself.
That's a fact. I
So,
always say that.
so that's why like Curve Fest, you know, we have these things called Curve Fest, where it's kind of like a block party, you know, where people come together and we raise awareness about political prisoners and get people connected to organizations, because we can't do it alone. You have to be a part of an organization. You
I
have
agree.
to, because the people who want to maintain and perpetuate the systems, they organize. They got resources and all that. They organize, not just, you know, not just a different state. They organize internationally, you know. So we got to be organized, you know, as well. So that's one thing that I encourage everybody to get involved, be a part of an organization. And if you don't find an organization that's passionate about the work that you want to get involved in, then create the organization. You know, develop an organization. But there's enough organizations out here that we can support. Jericho Movement, they have chapters throughout the country. There's different Curve Fest that's happening throughout in cities across, you know, across the country. So get involved with organizations, and yeah, I'm glad the sister brought up like Kwame Shakur. He's a politicized prisoner, like George Jackson was a politicized prisoner. So there's a distinction between the two. You know, there's like political prisoners are people who, because of their political activity, they were criminalized and targeted by the state and incarcerated. Then there's politicized prisoners like George Jackson, you know, who, you know, was allegedly arrested for a gas station robbery, got inside, got politicized, and became basically a politicized prisoner. And there's other folks like that, like Kwame Shakur, you know, Kevin Rashid.
Yeah.
So many others, you know. So we fighting to get them all out, you know. We fighting to get them all out, and yeah, we definitely need to connect, Sister J, and that's what we got to do. We got to bring, you know, we got to bring our forces together. It was a question that a brother had put in the chat about, you know, why focus on people who's incarcerated and not focus on the youth so they don't get incarcerated. We need to. It's not either or. It's both and. You know, it's not either or, it's both. And we got to focus on the people that's in the inside, and we got to focus on the work in our communities, you know. And brothers need to, you know, I don't know if folks know, but this is something I had learned from a brother who's a advocate and organizer, that when Fred Hampton had passed away, it was street organization, leaders of street organization that was carrying his casket. You know, because they basically knew that he was someone that not only to look up to, but follow in his footsteps, you know. So I think, yeah, we need to like get these street organizations. They organized already, but we need to organize them in a way that's going to be beneficial for our communities and people. So that's what, and I think that's what this channel is about, you know, transforming those minds.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you said that though, because I was waiting. I'm actually texting Minister King right now, and I wanted him to come on and speak to that factor of ending hostilities and what that took for them while they were locked up in Pelican, and how he's using that same template to come out here to kind of go to those street organizations to do the same thing. He's trying to he needs the support so that we can actually utilize that template so it can be a national agenda in which we seek to end hostilities in our communities and focus on construction versus destruction.
That's what's up. That's what's up. And sometimes it may take more than one tool, because as we organize to do things, the state, the people who want to maintain the system, is organizing to undo what we do. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes, you know, like I always say, systems of oppression, they morph. they morph. Like, you know, it was the slaves, the system of slavery, and we fought against that and eradicated that. And then it morphed into the Jim Crow system of segregation, and then we fought against that, and then it morphed to what we have now, mass incarceration in the new Jim Crow. So we always got to, you know, this is chess, not checkers. So we always got to stay 2 steps ahead of them, you know.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that it's important that as long as we're active, we're having these conversations. And to the individual who put that into the chat, that yeah, we do need to speak to the issues of our youth. I mean, I think that, you know, there's no way that we're going to be having these conversations talking about Mutulu Shakur. I mean, a significant part of the work that they were involved in was programs centered around the youth, right? They were talking about free breakfast programs, which later on became co-opted by the government itself. So much so that we probably all remember going to free lunch and free breakfast when we were kids. But this was something that was started by the Black Panther Party. So yes, these individuals themselves created something that they knew they were trying to fill a void and fill a need for the people who were dealing with a lot of health related issues, who were not getting the nutrients on a daily basis. But the ones that they focus on primarily were the youth. You dig what I'm saying? So a lot of times what happens is that we either complain about the problems themselves and not doing anything. We're expecting for individuals to do the problems for us or to fix problems for us. Or the third thing is that we know we should be doing it, but we don't necessarily create the systems that we have the power to be able to do so. And I think that's the worst of the three, because we do have the power to be able to self-create our own programs. We have the, you know, and I said that the other day that the youth need viable programs. But not only do the youth need these viable programs, we all need these viable programs. Minister King is trying to get in. Send me the number. I'm clicking on the YouTube link, but my info is lost for when they want me to come in.
All right. It's almost past my bedtime.
Yeah, we're about to close out. Yo,
I appreciate y'all, man. Keep up the good work. There's not a lot of platforms that's talking about this issue, and yeah, definitely need to connect. And I got my support. Reach out. You know what I'm saying? I got my contacts. You know, shit. And yeah. Moshe, make sure sister get my contact.
absolutely, my brother.
And have a good night and keep up the good work, man. I appreciate y'all.
Yo, man, we appreciate you coming on, man. Good night, man.
Absolutely.
So I don't know if Minister King is going to be able to get on. He seems to be struggling with trying to get in. He said it's not bringing him in. He's trying hard. Send me the number. I'm clicking on the YouTube link, but my info is lost for when they want me to come in. Hold on. I think he's having a hard time.
Okay. But to triple down on the talking about, you know, making sure that we're appealing to the youth before it gets to that point, like the brother Darren said, we have to do both. You know, it's important for us to be active in our communities to help teach our children better, to bring them up so they can avoid incarceration or doing things. But that doesn't mean
There you go.
that we just not look at the other problem. So we definitely got to do both. You know, be active in the community as well.
I agree. There go Minister. Look at the brother. He pulls up. Come on, yo. I was about to say. I said, hold on. It's 10 o'clock. I said, hold on, man. There's no way we gonna do this without you pulling up, man. How you doing, my brother?
Oh, I'm good. Greetings to all you brothers and sisters.
Man,
Jay Renee, what's going on, sis?
What's up, bro? How you
How you
doing?
been doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
So
I was listening in. I just was having technical problems. So
nah, don't worry about it, man. Listen. You got the floor now because we've been speaking for the last 2 hours. But so I mean, first of all, there's a lot that I know you need to speak about the issue surrounding the ending of hostilities in our communities. One, two, the matter pertaining to Mumia Abu Jamal, who is still being held captive out there in Pennsylvania, in the state of Pennsylvania, among other things. But I'll just leave it and pass the mic to you, my brother.
So first of all, I want to thank you for having me. We locked in. For those that don't know me, my name is Minister King X. I'm here located in Oakland, California. I'm formerly incarcerated. I'm the director of California Prison Focus Cage Universal. So our primary focus right now, we're focusing on liberating our elders, I see you all had Conrad Mutulu, and we actually trying to do a fundraiser for him right now. So when he come home, he got all the adequate resources forever period of time that he gonna need those resources. But another elder that I want to talk about besides Rochelle McGee is Mamiya, because Mamiya has a court date coming up soon. It's December 17th, and his campaign is love, not fear. So we want to really bolster what's going on with Mamiya, because basically he been subjected to a campaign of harassment and held captive because of his school of thought. It's beyond punishment. It's beyond solitary confinement. It's beyond anything that's usual. Ain't nothing usual about cruel and unusual torture. So these men and women who been incarcerated for decades been subjected and denied their true freedom because of who they are and subjected to a campaign of harassment. So what we're trying to do is get enough people on the East Coast, West Coast, South to start writing letters, putting up posts, free Mamiya, free liberate our elders. In every aspect, we working together. So in breaking it back in 2011, 2012, and 2013, when we did the hunger strike, what came out of the hunger strike here at Pelican Bay is was the historical agreement to end hostilities. The historical agreement to end hostilities is so powerful, it still stands in California prison. It's starting to go in other prisons. And you got these other groups like the Aryan Brotherhood, the Mexican Mafia, Northern Familia, Black Guerrilla Family, Panthers. We all signed this historical document. And what we're doing now, we're paralleling it to society. Moshe, you know what I mean, when we was criminalized as the worst of the worst. So when we come back out here, we use this document to show that we not only not the worst of the worst, but we giving back to our communities and we rebuilding our communities. So a lot of times when these schools getting shut down, we on front line pushing up on the board. They just had a few mayors come in office. You know, sometimes politics could get funny, but we asked each one of these mayor candidates, what are they going to do for the formerly incarcerated? And so we're going to hold them accountable. And we actually trying to establish our own political action committee. And that's what we're doing. We're using the agreement to end hostilities as an apparatus to communicate. We're using the agreement to end hostilities to buy us time to work with each other, other social groups, culturally, socially, politically, in every aspect. So what we want to do is begin to train these youth out here on how to end hostilities among themselves. Oakland has a high ratio of violence. And being formerly incarcerated, I was a part of the problem once upon a time. I went to prison for a bank robbery that I didn't do, but nevertheless, I still was out here involved with the contradiction. So what we're doing is we rebuilding after school programs, we building a curriculum off the agreement to end hostilities. So yeah, in every aspect, we want to make sure that we working with brothers and sisters around the globe with the same agenda and embrace others' idea, because that's really what it's about, that shared humanity. So I
Yeah.
yield though, because I know I was long-winded.
Nah. That was actually so. And so provide some backdrop, because a lot of people don't really understand exactly what, like how J Renee, KK, and I, how conscious we are about exactly what the ending of hostilities is and what actually led up to the hunger strike in Pelican Bay. Give some backdrop regarding that so that people can actually understand exactly what you guys had to do out there and the impact that had.
So earlier in the 60s and 70s, you had a particular class of people that was in San Quentin, Attica, and all these different prisons that was placed in solitary confinement because they school of thought, and it was validated because of who they were. And it was an implicit bias because you had these new African men and women that was fighting against the system. So they put them in solitary confinement. But before they went there, it was a war. It was racial wars going on. And San Quentin, for example, you had officers giving white prisoners knives, butcher knives, to kill the black prisoners. So you had people that was debriefing and they were saying, well, these guys have a personal influence, and they put this tag of leadership, shot callers. And so once they put them in solitary confinement, they stayed there for decades, for 30 and 40 years. Then they put us in the short quarter. The short quarter was in D section, the short quarter D section in Pelican Bay, Tehachapi, and Corcoran. So there in Pelican Bay, they put all these principal thinkers, which we call them principal thinkers now, because you don't want to use the language that they already criminalized with as shot callers or even leadership. So they put these principal thinkers together, and it took 5 years to come up with this plan. One of the ideas was to exchange literature from Bobby Sand, exchange literature from when Mandela then went on their strike. And what came out of it was 5 core demands. 5 core demands started with simple demands of better food, better medical treatment. It was cold, so we asked for thermos. People thought it was a joke. So from 2011, it only lasts, I say 60 days, and only maybe 6,500 people participated. 2012, people participated, and it was a multicultural group then. And what came out of 2012 in August was the historical agreement to end hostilities. We said, okay, well, what happens is society is not going to believe you unless we really come together with solidarity. So solidarity became our weapon to fight back, because you got this caste system. What they do is conquer and divide us with frivolous narrative of saying, okay, well, this particular group is over that group, and we bite into it. We fight over tables. We fight over geographical backgrounds, whether it's your gang, whether it's your ideology or whatnot. So then we come up to 2000, fast forward into 2014, they start kicking this out because the class action was Oscar versus Governor. Oscar versus Governor. It started putting principal thinkers like Satawa Natambu Jamal, who's one of the principal thinkers, the leaders of the New Africans, who was a go-to person, a negotiator. Then you had one of the brothers from the Aryan Brotherhood, Todd Oscar. And then you had other oppressed people that was go-to people for their community. So during this time of the agreement and hostilities, we said, well, now we're going to the general population. How do we begin to get people to adhere to this document? So we put together a study group, and it was all the principal thinkers from each community. And we began to have workshops on the yard. And we were so serious that when a problem occurred on the yard, we addressed it head on, like, look, you're not going to break our agreement. And that means that some men, we lost people. Like, I don't know if you guys know about Hugo Pinnell. Hugo Pinnell was one of our elders who died in Folsom because they utilized two agent provocateurs who wasn't even part of the agreement to end hostilities. Wow. They tried to say that they was part of the Aryan Brotherhood, but actually there was two people who had debriefed, and they had got put off the yard, and part of their political reprieve was to work for the government. So they went and assassinated Hugo Pinnell on behalf of CDC small r. We say small r because there's no rehabilitation. George Jackson always say the journey to freedom begins from within. So fast forward to an isolated situation where they basically wanted to go from prison to the street. They wanted these hostilities to last just as long as they was lasting from the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. So what happened is you had these elders that stand down, and we started beginning to do culture exchange. And the whole idea behind the prison human rights movement blueprint was to rebuild, exchange while you in general population, and then come back out here into society and work with your community. So that's what we've been doing. It's a lot of men and women that's been coming home, that's formerly incarcerated. We're working with different organizations now. Since I've been home, the same organization, California Prison Focus, used to actually come visit us during a hunger strike, pull us out. Now I'm the director of California Prison Focus. And I also brought my organization that I started inside, which is CAGE. CAGE is spelled K-A-G-E, Kings, Queens Against Genocidal Environments. So we use culture and arts really to bolster that story of these elders, whether it's through plays, whether it's through music. Like I always tell everybody, art is a universal language, but also it's something that people could be more receptive to have that type of conversation. And then we could begin to build politically, economically, culturally, and socially. But one of the things that we're doing right now is we're trying to get some land, because we know in the era of stop mass incarceration, it's like, where do we begin to bring these elders after 30 or 40 years? Where they gonna live? A lot of their family are gone. So we're trying to rebuild our communities and have them, the walking encyclopedias, the elders, be the new teachers or the old teachers to really be there for our youth. Because when you think about it, they subjected to a minicide, a cultural genocide. A lot of them, it's just like they don't have big brothers and sisters. So when you got the Moshes of the world, others alike, that's putting boots on the ground, where do we begin to intersect, find the resources, and continue to do the progressive work, even without them big grants that so many people fight over? And that's what's happening. You got a lot of us doing the work, but we don't get allocated the funds to do the work, and we find ourselves coming out the pocket. So those are the conversations that we're having right now. I know next month we're gonna be doing the Radcliffe Awards. The Radcliffe Awards started with Mary and Willie Radcliffe, who run the San Francisco Bayview, and that's because while we was in solitary confinement, they used to send us the newspapers, and we used to take the newspaper and we used to use it as study guides. A lot of people inside was laymen and women. We didn't know politics, so I used the newspaper to learn. You know. So that's what we're doing now, though. We're starting political study groups out here. We're getting people involved. We're starting their own businesses. We intersecting with brothers and sisters that's out in the community that's already established. I just met a beautiful sister right now, and we talking about some bigger things out in the community. So I yield though. And what it looked like is basically the same work that we all doing. It ain't nobody really overlapping each other. It's more like, how do we find each other? How do we work with each other? How do I embrace your ideas, Jay Renee ideas? I didn't properly introduce myself to the brother, but it's like we finding each other, and it's like we gotta continue to fight to build. And I'm kind of summarizing it without going too deep, because I got a lot of documents. Like if you drop, Moshe, I got your email. I got your email, Jay Renee. I can actually send you guys the curriculum that we building on now, and it'll make more sense for you to actually put your eyes on it. I was happy to get an after school program that I thought of with the Oakland Unified School District. You know, so we parallel on that. We trying to get some. We fought for the prisoners here in California to get tablets. So the conservative effort was get them tablets. The second move will be to actually put our curriculum on some type of, well, they got this app called Gogi, getting out by going in. You'll put your curriculum on the app and give them access, and then they can start doing e-mentoring and whatnot, and working with the youth inside and out, and working with them on how to end hostilities from inside and out.
Wow. You know, yo, Jay Renee, every time I talk to our brother here, it's so impact. I just want to go out and leave now and go get to doing it, right? Because it just proves that we have a lot of work ahead of us, and that we should not stop until we no longer have breath in our bodies. And thank you for that, because the clarity is important for us to be able to put things into perspective, Minister King, because a lot of times when people are listening, they may walk away asking more questions than anything. They may say, "Hey, who's that brother that came on?" So it's always good to give some clarification regarding who you were, your experiences, because they may not know that you were in Pelican Bay during the food strike. And so let me just give you some backdrop. So when we heard it from our side, KK and I, Mikey B, and all of us, we were literally on the East Coast hearing about the fact that you guys were going on the hunger strike. So it had an impact on us as well, because we were trying to figure out exactly, what was going on. We know what Pelican Bay is an instant. We know that Pelican Bay is an institution that's used to repress and try to break individuals to get them to debrief so that they can leave. We know all the situations that they do. We know how they help foster and perpetuate this whole tribalistic type of way of living and things like that, where individuals are going at each other. So what you guys did was literally groundbreaking. It was never done before in the history of California, and probably in American cultural, the penal institution itself, that it probably was never done on that level. So you guys did something. People lost their lives. That's something that should also be highlighted as well, that people went on a hunger strike and some individuals died as a result of that. And that's something that's not really spoken about. So I do appreciate the fact that you're continuing to follow through on those pledges and that promise to end hostilities in our communities. And it started in prison, and instead of it having a negative impact, as some things have done, you guys want to be able to make it have a positive impact. So if it's anything we can do to help in that regard, I'm all on deck. Last time I was out in Cali, I was in Inglewood, but I told you, when I get back out there, we gonna link up. I'm coming to Oakland. You know that. In Charlotte.
Yeah. Like I told you, I love to host you out here and show you around. But it's a lot of movement building out here. And one of the goals right now, like I was saying about establishing our own pack, is really a community release board. And if we were to begin to have a community release board everywhere, and then we could address these issues, this caste system have retired COs, retired officers that sit on the board. So if you get the Mutulas of the world, they go sit at the board, they're gonna tell them no, not because of his crime, but because of who he is, because they're intimidated, right? And we got to get past that. It's like, how do we begin, especially us being able to go back inside and allowing our voices to be heard? How do we begin to let them know, look, you don't have no choice but to come out here and get involved? Because the narrative that we telling out here, the young street formation, is you're not going to be rewarded if you continue to commit a genocide in the community. I know a lot of these young brothers and sisters inherited the very beefs that we established before we went in prison. So a lot of times they just acting out on what they inherited. And that's the part that we really don't talk about. So how do we begin to address it? Accountability responsibility start within, with self. So just giving them the real, like half of the ideas and half of the gangs, or so-called gangs. I don't like to call them gangs because you already know what happened there. They become demonized and looked at it as violent predators, right?
Absolutely.
But half of the street formation, some of the young brothers and sisters don't even know their history and why they beefing. And if they don't really know that, if you take them through a history lesson and they get the facts, and then you kind of like give them an opportunity, put them in a different environment to have that conversation, sometimes they find out like, damn, I'm beefing with this dude over there, and I just found out that was my cousin. So we got to heal. And that's where we at right now. We're trying to heal from inside and out. And not only that, take these ideas across the world and campaign it and let our energy meet up with our brothers and sisters. Jay Renee, I watch what you do. You go hard. And I just love the fact that she keep them brothers alive. And brothers and sisters behind the wall, she keep them alive. Absolutely. And I'm like, man, okay. So it's the word that even what you doing, Moshe, it's like it's impeccable. Yeah. And you got some people that's doing the work. I don't want to undermine them, but they do it for the wrong reason.
Yes, sir.
And if we don't continue to learn from each other, each one of us teach each other, because it's always going to be something you all know that I don't know. Absolutely. And that's culture. That's culture, though, right? Absolutely. So, yeah, I just want to continue to build. And I send you the agenda for the Radcliffe Awards, because really we want to see what that look like everywhere.
Yo, I want to be able to, quite frankly, it makes a lot of sense from our perspective, not having to recreate the wheel where we're at. So if you guys are gaining some success with the programs and that you're doing out west, it makes sense for us to do the same thing where we're at. I mean, we know that every geographical area comes with its own idiosyncrasies and things of that nature, but we don't have to recreate the wheel. You guys have a successful program working. Maybe we need to sit down and strategize and ask ourselves, how can we utilize that system or those processes to kind of help us maximize that potential over where we're at. So we can replicate the paradigm. It's not difficult to do. So I definitely welcome, sitting down with you and anytime and discussing how we can go about doing that, bro, because I mean, the only thing we haven't done yet is actually gotten to that point yet. So we're like in our own, I don't want to say we're working in silos because we're not, but we just had to get to the point where we're actually, there and doing what needs to be done. Because even with Jay Renee, we know we have to do this work. We know we're doing the work, but we're kind of like spread out doing the work. But it's only going to be a matter of time before we actually get this stuff going. But I would like for you to send me some of the stuff that I need so we can sit down and kind of go to the next phase of the struggle.
I owe Jay Renee an interview so late. I'm so late. I know she did.
Yo.
Everybody do.
So I'm gonna say it live right now. I'm committed. We gotta just schedule the day, right? Because I've been like pulled all over the place.
Oh,
but I'm
yeah,
committed.
Join the party. Join the party, man.
This is like the power. I remember talking to the elders on the yard, and I was like, man, how do we begin to change that? Like George said, change your criminal mentality, right? Absolutely. And that's why I made that piece, Gangster Revolution, like change your gangster mentality to a revolutionary mentality, be more progressive. So on the 26th of last month, we had an event through this organization called CRC. And they used the theme was use art as a tool. So all these local celebrities came out, and somehow I felt myself on stage. I ain't been on stage in years, right? So somehow I found myself on stage. They put me there first. And I was like about to freeze up. And then I just said, you know what? I didn't come up here to perform. I came up here to really just bolster the campaign with the elders. So I spoke on that a little bit. But then I just went in on everybody. I was like, look, man, we got all this violence out here. We out here promoting this genocide. We disrespecting ourselves, our women. It's 2023. I challenge y'all to a battle. And I know they saying, oh, here go an ego, right? I said my challenge is that we all embrace the agreement to end hostilities and let these youth live and maybe even come up with a we all in the same gang type of theme all over again, right? Man, they embraced it. I had so many people, and it was just amazing, right? And it's those type of things that really matter, because Common signed on. John Legend said he bought the sign on. Yeah. We got a local artist, Mr. Fab, signed on. Richie Rich signed on. Cool Man, all the it was another, I forgot. Guapale said she gonna sign on. It's so many, and that's not the name drop, but I'm saying, wow, okay, it's not mine no more. It's not ours inside no more. It's everybody.
That's right. It's ours now. That's right.
It's ours now. Yeah, so it's time for us to make a street agreement, and this street agreement got to be everywhere, and we got to have a shared narrative, and we got to control that narrative. Absolutely. And we got to let people know that we serious. And sometimes that seriousness comes with sacrifice. And I ain't afraid to admit that. And that's something that we got to just say out loud. Like, if we're really serious about no more cultural genocide, like, what does that look like? So, yeah, man, I'm going to fall back. I want to thank y'all again for having me. I'm out in the field. But thank you all, brothers and sisters, for having me.
Yo, man, listen, my brother, it's always a pleasure. I always appreciate, I don't care how brief the time we spend together talking, I'm always appreciative of your presence, my brother. Thank you for gracing us with your presence. Thank you. I hope the listeners out there were able to gain something, and that we're able to gain some momentum moving forward. It's just not one of those conversations, but you'll be hearing from me by Allah's mercy. All right. There's some things I need to tap you for, so I'm gonna hit you up, inshallah, man.
All right. All right, Jay Renee, get at me, sis, and then we're gonna go from there. All right, bro. You take care.
Yes, sir.
All right. Salute.
Salute. So, I know we running up on 2.5 hours right now, you guys. That every time I talk to Minister King, I just feel like all the work I'm doing. I don't know. He just always makes me feel like I'll be like, am I doing enough? I'm like,
Right.
I'm the busiest man in show business. I'll be thinking, I'm ain't nobody busier than me, right? I talk to Minister King. I'll be like, you doing what?
Yeah,
Yo,
be on it.
yo, I love the brother, man. So, this night right here was a special one because we had an opportunity of talking to our loved ones, man. In this case, my brother KK, Jay Renee, and Minister King, and then the brother Darren Matt pulled up. Is it, I know we going on 2.5 hours. Is there any last final thoughts you guys want to leave us? If it's about the elder Mutulu Shakur, if it's about anything in the news lately, we didn't even get a chance to talk about that, but we'll speak about that another time by law's permission. But is there anything you guys want to say?
I was going to say just prayers for Mutulu and his family, man. Just hoping hopefully let him out, and then hopefully he do recover though, even after the let out. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
Time to enjoy. I mean, just enjoy a little bit of this life, man. And just hoping that he's preparing though for the other side though as well. Because as Muslims, this is what we look forward to as well. To actually make that preparation. Besides that, I just love just hearing what everybody's doing because it just puts things into my head on
Facts.
Who to reach out.
It puts things into perspective. Facts.
Yes, because I already know what I'm. So even some of the things that he says, so I wasn't saying anything. Some of the things he was actually saying is like, all right, good, we're doing that, but everything can't be put out there. You know what I'm saying?
That's true too.
Like we're working on, but best believe, God's people go get their time. I'll just say that.
We're gonna get it.
God's people gonna get their time.
What's up, Jay? Leave us with some powerful thoughts, man. We know ain't no wisdom like coming from a queen, man. Let's hear what you got to say, man.
Have a queen on here, come on there, like that.
Well, I definitely was gonna say I appreciate being here. I always enjoy being in this space with some solid men, strong mind, kings for real. I appreciate y'all as grown men and as kings and leaders and warriors in this fight. So y'all are definitely appreciated. And I appreciate being here. All I can say is, continue up the good fight. Those of y'all are out here in the fight, make sure y'all are pacing yourself and placing yourself, doing your self-care, and just keep compassion in your heart, whatever level you can do it at, when it comes to bringing exposure to the things that are going on and helping those that are behind the G-wall and past the G-wall, just making sure we keep the narrative what it really is. We're in control of our narrative. I don't know if y'all know, but y'all are Black journalists, and we matter. And this matters. This is going to be somewhere 10 years from now and people are going to be looking at it. So this space is something y'all definitely have to keep, and just keep compassion in your heart, y'all. And you always got to make sure you stay sucker free. You stay sucker free, you got half of the plan right there.
That's a fact.
So keep your compassion, keep your head, and just keep it moving, keep fighting against the machine.
Yeah.
Well,
subscribe, button, share, all that.
I just want to say thank you for everybody who tuned in today with us. Sister J. Renee, thank you for coming on. Sister, it's always a pleasure. And Minister King, I love you guys, man. And the brother Darren Mack, thank you again for gracing us with your presence. To everybody in the chat, True LES Talk, King Sunrise Shaka Shakur, Short Man, everybody that's been tuned in, Miss Sunshine, we definitely appreciate the love and support. Again, please, I put the link in there so that you guys can subscribe to the Sister J. Renee's channel. I'm gonna show you guys the link again. There should be nobody who has been listening to us. Not one person. Not one. You got your phone now. You have the phone in your hand right now. Please go subscribe to my sister's channel, Prison Riot Radio. This is a show that you guys will definitely appreciate. I love listening to it. It's raw. It's right to the point. It's no shenanigans. She's the voice for the voiceless, for the sisters and brothers locked up behind the wall. So please support the sister. She needs our help. Everybody that's been tuned in, if you have not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button, like, share, do all that. Y'all know what it is already, man. Listen to the Shakur family. I know it's going to be challenging seeing the elder come back home in the conditions that he's in. Doctors have stated that he only has a few months to live. I don't know that. Allah knows best. I know it's going to be challenging for you guys, but just know that there are people out here who care for you guys. We're going to do everything in our power to support. Our brother Minister King already stated that he has, a fund that we can even support. And listen, we're going to get right to that. I don't even want to speak about that, but we already know. But whatever we got to do, we have to do to support our people who are in need. Let's continue to be on the front line and don't play no games with this, man, because there's people who came before us who didn't play. And there's going to be people who come after us who are not going to play. So we're going to be asked, what did you do when you had an opportunity to do something in your era? And I hope we're not of those who said that we didn't do anything. So if there's anything you learned from this discussion tonight, don't let the conditions of our oppressed people go by without us at least responding or doing something. With that, Jay Renee, thank you. My brother KK, I love you.
Love you too, man.
Assalamu alaikum. Y'all have a good night. We locked in.
Yeah, I know the motto, man. Find freedom in you.
Support our men. I love this. Jay Renee. Yo, y'all have a good night, man. Love y'all, man.
Oh, yeah.
I'm telling you. Lit. Yo, peace, sis.